perfectly on time, just as intended.
For some reason, it is impossible seemingly for them to admit it.
Hey, all right.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? We're there. Hello, everyone.
Oh man, right. Hello. It's it's actually been quite a good week.
It's been interesting, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but generally trending quite good, I think.
Yeah, trending good for us. Certainly, little bit of a knock in the team. Yesterday's video being
Yes.
certainly doing so badly it's cost us all a fair amount of beats. But other than that,
Highly popular content. That's what it is.
yes,
That's what it is.
that's it. We make lore videos for the 7 people who still care.
Yep, certainly.
Oh man, but no. Other than that, like stuff's good. We're working on some fun plans today.
There we are.
Especially for those who are perhaps interested in that other MMO, and maybe actually other MMOs in general, because there's other things I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, why restrain yourself to one thing when there are many things?
I've spent friggin' years talking about Guild Wars 2, Mance. Maybe at some stage I should actually do something on them.
Yeah, that would be somewhat helpful in a sense. Somewhat helpful, but
Aye, indeed. So we do actually have plenty to talk about with you today. So 9.1.5, more development is happening, and unsurprisingly, because it's 9.1.5, it's all good. Now, is that suddenly stuff that's going to make people, big tier care about the game again? No, I don't really think so. I think it's content. It's going to do that. So really, we got to wait for 9.2, and we'll probably find out what that is in a quarter of a year. Maybe 2 months until people kind of know what's next. So yes, there's that.
Yeah,
I mean, at least, hey, Legion Time Walking will get people back in.
yeah, or well, at the very least, it'll give people on 6-month sub still to actually give them reason to log back in and play the game and enjoy it. Which I'm sure I will. I'm sure everyone who will try it actually will enjoy it. I mean, personally, I know I'm looking forward to finding out if I actually enjoyed Legion Mythic Plus as much as I remember enjoying it. That's basically one of the most important things I'm going to do. Is go, did I really like this, or was I enamored by Legion being new and different? And I really hope to find the answer to that when I hop into Niltharians.
That's actually, that's a really interesting point. I guess it's just that thing. A Mythic Plus dungeon really feels like a Mythic Plus dungeon, and we've had 3 sort of X packs in a row of them. Yeah. But that said, I mean, I could get why Blizzard obviously wanted to keep that system going and not throw it in the bin, and you could say that throwing systems in the bin after an expansion is kind of one of the things they get criticized for. Maybe M Plus just needs to evolve rather than, sort of big change or anything. Certainly would be interesting.
I definitely have a lot of thoughts on that, but thoughts that I think people will get at a later stage as opposed to anytime soon. They're not quite fully formed yet. Let's put it that way.
They're still in the oven. Mm-hmm. Right, well, until Matt is ready with his thought oven, let's go to patch 9.1.5.
Let's do it.
Because, we got a lot of news today. Some stuff that's not WoW. Matt has also broken his own brain with the self-perception theory.
Yeah, no, for a little bit of a tease, I should say, I did post it on Twitter, but there's a little bit of a discussion on Twitter that I noticed among game design people talking about the over-justification effect. And we've mentioned it a couple times in like videos and stuff like that, but basically I did a little bit of research into some old studies, and that's what a huge problem with MMOs, like in the title, is about. Basically found evidence that proves what a lot of MMOs are doing, and this isn't just World of Warcraft, there's a lot of MMOs, there's even a lot of games, are unwittingly basically poisoning the mind of their players and making their own games less fun to play over time through not understanding a very simple and well enough understood psychological concept.
I mean, hey,
great.
Even think about the mechanics of Twitter. People used to think for the sake of thinking, but if you start thinking for the sake of clout and likes... it's going to corrupt how you think, and then you're going to be this, sort of roving zing machine, getting zingers and snipes and pew, pew, pew. Yeah. That's the thing. Whenever you put a reward system around something that could, sort of change why people do things. Maybe that's why for some of those rich fuckers like the 17th Ferrari is not quite as fun as the first Ferrari, or whatever it's like for those super rich people. But right. World of Warcraft news, we have got more 9.1.5 updates, so let's get into them. In fact, first, let's not do an update. Let's talk about the Mage Tower. Because we thought, right, me and Matt were both, maybe this is just something where we didn't particularly think about it that much, and we were just more thinking, like, what is the right policy to have in general? Yeah. And for both of us, we just thought, look, Blizzard said those artifact skins were just going to be time-limited thing, so if they said that, and then a whole bunch of people spent a whole bunch of time, prepping their characters, doing all of those things, and then they kind of undo that, we just sort of thought, that's, not really fair, not really consistent. Whenever Blizzard says something, we should believe it. There shouldn't be the ambiguity. Now, what was interesting is apparently that's a extremely elitist statement, and all of those things. We did not say that from any point of elitism. I mean, it would be really absurd for me especially, less you, but especially for me, to go around acting like a big elitist about the Mage Tower and, guarding the massive hoard of treasure that I've got from it, which is essentially, next to nothing. Because, it was that thing, it was a solo challenge, but as I said in the last stream, Guild had fallen apart, so just can't have proper access to all of that was just not really a thing. Which is part of why I'm very excited, and certainly if you were able to get those old artifact skins in this new Mage Tower, I would be a prime beneficiary of that change. So it certainly wasn't something we were saying from much of a personal perspective. How many of them do you have again?
I don't remember. I'm sure my spreadsheet where I tracked it somewhere. Jesus, but
back when you maintained the spreadsheet for all
that.
Yeah,
the spreadsheet my characters. I definitely earned all of them on like a couple of classes that I really liked, but I at least did one on every class. At least one on every class. All Paladin, I think all Druid, I think all... Was it all DK? I think it was all the DK ones. All the Warlock ones, I think. basically quite a lot of them because I had nothing. I had nothing but time and the energy to play World of Warcraft back then, and I did.
Yeah. So, right. Then that's, we were just shooting the shit on the stream. But sometimes what happens is, the bit of the stream goes to the Clips channel, and that audience can sometimes have a different reaction to things than the live stream audience. Some of that's because sometimes a little bit of context can be lost, but some of that is just it goes out to more people, right? And it's not a live environment, so it's treated more like a video where things are a little bit more serious feeling. Whenever something's involved versus live. And just listening to people. I mean, a lot of the comments were really furious at us, which I thought was like, okay, come on, we weren't really being that harsh about it. But it was evidently clear that there was a lot of dissent on this. So dissent, I mean, versus what Blizzard are sort of planning to do. So I took to Twitter. We did a poll. 10,500 people replied to this poll. My question was, should the Time Walking Mage Tower award the original artifact skins? And 60% said yes. Now, there were some people that said, well, I had these skins and I would feel a bit betrayed. But there was lots of people, I would say more people, who said, I have most of the skins. I don't care. My achievement has a date on it. So I can always know, and other people can always know if push comes to shove, that I did it when it was sort of there originally. So it's the sort of thing where it's 60-40. Now, 60-40 is a bit rough because, politically, 60-40 is it's a 20-point spread. It's a political landslide. So how is it that you could have a 60-40 spread and, all of society wants to kill the rest of society, right? So 60-40 is by no means a massive consensus. Like, ideally, with a sort of a game design thing, you would be wanting to push something like our bottom or next poll here, which is more of a... in this case, right? Do you support the return of the Mage Tower? 68%. Come on, you were so close. 68% said yes. 23 neutral, 9% no. So 90.07% were at least fine with the Mage Tower returning. Now, when it comes to, a game design decision, you're going to feel a lot more confident making a, 68% yes, 23%. Yeah, sure, fine. I don't really care, whatever. You're going to be so much more confident making that call than, making this call up here. And perhaps that is why Blizzard maybe felt a little bit defensive, a little bit like they just wanted to err in the side of not pissing off the people who had already invested the time. But it does seem to me like there could be room for some sort of compromise or something there. It's hard to know exactly what, because I think the werebear, the fell werebear, that's Blizzard trying to come to that compromise. But I don't think a lot of people were mega happy with it because it's a fell werebear. Doesn't look like the werebear that sort of people know, and fell. Like, it's so much more prescriptive in terms of the fantasy of your character that you're going around as a fell werebear. So I think that's why people weren't particularly thrilled about that. I'm trying to think of options, ways to get out of this that can get more people the thing that they want, because if 60% of people have said that, they'd be fine with those original skins coming, maybe that indicates that there should be a way for that to happen. Like, a lot of people would stand to benefit. Then if it's at 40% saying, no, it's a betrayal, well, is there a way that you could kind of mitigate the risk of pissing off the 40% while finding a way to please the 60% more? For some people, I've seen a number of different options, like giving a unique tint only for doing it again. One idea I had, because I wanted to try to think of an idea that would be additive for literally everyone. So my idea was kind of like, could you give a unique new tint of that to every player who did it originally, and then just open up the original 5 for being earned, or the original, the original one and then the other unlockable tints via, doing the new one, such that everyone can get the thing that they want, but the people who put the effort in back then do get a little sort of token of appreciation. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not really married to anything. But
yeah, so on that one, I think that kind of hits to a more fundamental issue where I don't think it's the specifics. Maybe for a lot of people, they do want a very specific skin, and that's why they're kind of relevant. Like, actually, I thought I would, I heard it was coming back. I thought I could do it. But I think it's more the principle of the I missed it. I want a chance to get it. Why can't I? The not
Yeah.
understanding, or not the not understanding as if they're stupid, but the not understanding as if they don't agree with the principle that they shouldn't get it because it's because they disagree with the idea of FOMO. They're like, well, it's the
That's
same
fair.
content. Why can't
Actually-
I get the same thing? And I feel like anything that rewards, because I actually like the idea of unique tint for the people who've already got it, and then open up those tints again. I think that would be like a kind of cool way to do it, but then you fall into the same problem of going past the principle of, no, I want everything that I can earn in this game. Why am I not allowed to earn it? I think it's the problem is I think people disagree with that,
Yeah.
which I generally do lean towards agreeing with from that perspective. It's like
See,
a lot of my perspective is that it's the integrity of the game, is the integrity of what Blizzard say, as opposed to I would never say, yeah, FOMO's fine, work away. I mean, there's maybe worlds where that's feasible. I mean, head of the curve, Hall of Fame, stuff like that, but
Yeah, so I was there with you in the whole, like, the integrity of the game, Blizzard saying what they say, that actually mattering.
yeah.
There was one comment that did interest me that was basically saying, okay, so you're saying that they should limit it to, they shouldn't bring back those rewards, but then you said, what if you, I think I'd mentioned, like, add things to Chromie time over time. That's not logically consistent. Whereas I thought that, like, that's kind of missing, for me, that was, like, missing the point of, well, no, for the Legion thing, I don't actually agree with the principle, but I think they should honor their word. But going forward, doing new things, those should always stand to the game and not have an aspect of FOMO. Now, on that, there is a potential out if Blizzard really wanted it and was willing to decrease the size of that 40% bar via trying to make an argument. What they could do is they could say that the reason why that stuff is going to be no longer obtainable is that in the next expansion, you would get new gear, you'd be a bunch of levels higher, you'd be so much more powerful, so you could go back and absolutely cakewalk face roll the Mage Tower if they left it in the game. But because it's coming back with a scaling system, they could say that on further evaluation, listening to community feedback in the issue, and play testing rigorously, trying to compare the difficulty of the two versions, they have realized that really the difficulty of the new version is in line with the original vision, so that anybody who earns it now, basically the reasoning of, like, gear and time makes it irrelevant is gone. Therefore, it's okay to offer those. And then maybe they could say, we understand the FOMO aspect here, and going forward, we will endeavor to make these systems evergreen and not involve FOMO aspects, so that you can be sure that content additions and rewards will always stand to the game in perpetuity. I think there might be a way for them to make a statement like that and convert more people to the 60%, sort of reduce some of those feelings of not being particularly pleased, and perhaps at least create more neutrality on the issue. They could do that. I can't tell you whether that would actually work. I can't tell you if that's, like, actually going to be okay with players, but that's, like, one idea. I suppose there's multiple ways forward that could potentially please more people. I mean, that said, I'm pretty happy to get those mythic recolors. I think they look great. So I that's enough of a reward for me to go and do the content again. Yeah. But certainly, you could almost see a weird reality of, actually, no. In a world where time walking was actually just there forever, or this Mage Tower could be done at any point in time, you could sort of say, if you complete the challenge in all 3 specs, you unlock the mythic tint. They could have totally done that, and then this would have been just the sort of, reward system in the game where it's really hard, takes a bunch of work, and that's just that for a long, long time. But if they were to change it to be a reward like that, then obviously people be like, oh yeah, but you were going to give us the class tit for only doing it in 1 spec. So that's a downgrade for me. So I'm not sure. I guess maybe there's just an argument that they could have got a little bit more out of it. But all of this is just made complicated by how it's a part of a time walking weekend. Well, weekend, they last a week. Twice a year.
Yeah. It's one of the weird things where I think, like, very rarely have Blizzard got an issue that genuinely splits the vast majority of the community. I think it's very, very rare that this occurs, and hopefully they're watching and they know what not to, like, just not to do that again, or not to mess with in any capacity, whether that'll be pure FOMO going forward or that'll be remove FOMO entirely. I feel like, hopefully they're paying attention to this and can see through metrics that people are generally not super pleased. But then one of the things I find interesting about situations like this is even the people who are happy aren't happy because they have to spend all of their time and energy defending why they're happy to people. So it's like it doesn't do anyone any favors. It's not like there's people standing on top of like they're beside the victory flag dancing, going, "Yeah, we got our way. You didn't, dumbasses." It's just people going, "No, yeah." It's people going, "No, we're right. No, we're right." And it's like, yeah,
that's WoW Twitter in a fucking nutshell. Holy shit, that place has got really. People are really angry these days at it. Yeah, so there could be a way to do this better. Is basically our point. Now there's a few things like I think there's a few people in chat talk about the Scarab Lord. I'd say, things like the Scarab Lord, let's not play around too much with things that are like almost mythical. But I think that because the Mage Tower is so, is relatively speaking so recent, I think you get away with it a little bit more. Another thing that's a little bit more recent that I was thinking about is the Mists of Pandaria challenge modes, right? So I've got the Hunter challenge mode, and not a lot of people have those challenge modes.
I certainly don't.
I really enjoyed doing the MOP challenge mode, and just in some of the downtime. I mean, come on, the 14 months after Siege of Orgrimmar, did that with the old guild. We had a blast. It was really, really cool. And I suppose I was thinking to myself, I would not care if somebody could get that again. I was not advocating for the Mage Tower stuff being restricted because of any personal stuff. It was literally just Blizzard's word should mean something. But yeah, as somebody who got that challenge mode in MOP, like if they revamped the MOP time walking and just had the MOP challenge mode be there, let people get the reward, I'd be totally happy with it. Why not add a few tints in as well, or change it up, do something extra? I mean, there's so many. See those challenge mode sets from MOP? Like, there are so many tints of those that exist and just are not used. It's like, why? Come on, let's do something with that. So, there's certainly so much that could be done with all these time walking events and just the historical content in the game. Yep. I think it is just a really big question of how do they do it and how do they deal with the whole twice per year problem. We've talked about at length in the stream before. Yeah,
I will say there's one specific thing that's very different about the challenge mode stuff, and that is something that I think, given the video we published this week, something worth considering, which is that especially if Mid-Char comes back and it's hard as hell, it's 7.1 hard, you're going to run into people who want rewards but aren't able to actually earn them through their own gameplay, which, if something's hard, it should be that way, but the CMs were carryable, they were boostable. So it's like, it's kind of the same as, you don't see someone with a head of the curve and go, "Oh, I know you're a proven heroic raider." You don't look at someone with challenge modes and go, "Oh, I know you were good enough to earn that." There's always, even if it wasn't as popular back in the day as it is now, there's still that flicker of doubt of, oh. And to be fair, that still sort of exists with Mage Tower based on the 7.3 stuff. But it was easy, but you still had to be vaguely competent to get it.
Yeah, for me, I guess. I would get it, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure, that will make Blizzard more money via WoW token. And that will mean more boosting and all of that. Boosting is a problem. It's also in a way a genie we can't stuff back in the bottle. And I certainly would never use it as a reason not to do something.
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't suggest that, no.
So that's maybe something to think about. I mean, if you were to take what a lot of the boosting community say, where they're like, well, hey, boosting actually drives a lot of gameplay. I mean, shit, then it actually just drives both more gameplay and more revenue from Blizz, so I guess they're happy about that.
Yeah, well, I should maybe pause to kind of to elucidate that, because we've published part 1 of boosting, but part 2 isn't out yet.
Yes.
So when you say there that it drives a lot of gameplay, that's literally true, but at least my hypothesis, and something that we'll be sharing very, very shortly once the video is done, then the hypothesis is that boosting drives gameplay, but the reason it drives gameplay is because the game lacks certain things, and it's basically all Blizzard's fault. essentially, because the game lacks things, and that's why people boost. A little bit of that I might get into a little bit later when I'm talking about extrinsic versus intrinsic stuff in the research, because that's kind of a lot of the problem. But
plus, also look at Destiny 2.
Yep.
Destiny 2 is a game with a very similar endgame structure to World of Warcraft, and Destiny 2 also has a lot of boosting going on. So that's, I suppose, another thing to think about.
Yep.
So that's that with the Mage Tower. They have, they've not really given us an update on this. I think it's clear the community's got a lot of split opinions. I mean, it's not split down the middle, but it's enough that it's a split that you will feel in the discourse where a consensus is hard to form.
yeah,
And that's always a little bit of a rough position to be in.
yeah, it's not enough for the OSRS devs to make a decision.
What do they require again?
I think it's 70% plus. I think so. I couldn't be sure on that, but I think it is.
Yeah. So I suppose that's it. Because if you have a 70% consensus, then maybe the losing 30, because it's not exactly like literally politics. Maybe they'll be like, well, okay, more people do prefer that thing. I'll go along with it. And maybe that does help to build consensus. But when it's just so in the middle, then it's a wee bit more messy. So that's that going on. I hope we get to some sort of solution that makes people happy. That's all I can say. And if that does mean that people don't feel super betrayed and all of those Mage Tower rewards can be got again, and it's a situation where I could get all my artifact weapons and also earn some like mythic tier appearances, I would be very excited. I think that would be really cool. So
absolutely.
certainly that. Okay.
Yep.
Of course.
75%. For
75.
OSR 75, yeah. Cheers.
It would not be current times if there wasn't a little bit of Blizzard, sort of trying to clean things up in the game and sort of doing the, you could say, desexualization push. So a few things have happened. I think the easiest one to talk about is the big love rocket, which has been turned into the X45 Heartbreaker. Now, there's a few different ways the big love rocket could go. I mean, one of them is if you sort of imagine some like mega exaggerated, real plush. I mean, the zebra pattern's even there, sort of pimp mobile.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that. I mean, that's sort of what they're going for. That's one way you could take it. The other way you could take it is love rocket. Penis. Penis often involved in the making of the love. Big dick joke.
Sometimes, yes, I've heard that.
Big dick joke. So in a world where if you're to say that people could take this as a dick joke, and it's also a world where, bros before ho-ho-hos or a joke like that gets removed from the game, then I think you can obviously see them turning it into the X45 Heartbreaker, because that is just a little bit more generic. It's not tied to, it's like a bit less sort of genitalia tied in its maybe its name or something. I think that's probably their internal justification for this change. Another thing that maybe something we wouldn't know is perhaps maybe the developer who implemented this is somebody who's also been implicated in sort of misdeeds or something. So there was that. I think from what I could see, the player reaction was basically just like, what?
Yeah.
This isn't really, what are you doing? You're trying too hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of these changes are definitely for their internal purposes as opposed to for players at this point in time.
I think that is the case. Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. I mean, Clyde Hunter saying they should call it the X69. Like, that, yeah, if you're going to do this, that would be funny. And, I mean, yes, that's a sex position. Oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, that's funny. It's a joke. Why not? Yes, that would be funnier. I totally support it being called the X69. Because, I mean, at least then it would be still sort of a funny sex joke instead of Heartbreaker. Like, oh, that's a bit less. A bit less fun. So there was that, and then there was also the Twin Consorts fight, which has now been changed to the Twin Empyreans. So, I mean, consorts, clearly that is a word that over there at Blizz they're not particularly thrilled with. So this is the sort of thing, there's sort of maybe sort of sexualized things that they're trying to remove from the game, which, it's a bit weird, like playing Final Fantasy XIV, like there is sex and swearing and the Mikote prostitution thing as well, all of that's going on because... I guess what they're trying to do in FF14 is do a lot of world building and to make a world that feels rich and believable. And of course, sexuality is going to be a part of any rich and believable world that is a bit more targeted at an adult audience. Which, that's the thing with WoW, I mean, it always used to be more of, for all ages. I mean, not literally, I think it was a 12 plus or something. But, I mean, nowadays, let's be real, it's definitely an older crowd playing it.
Yeah,
So-
which is why it feels so strange. You're definitely, that's why I think they're definitely doing this for a little bit of peace of mind internally, as opposed to any strong external reason.
Yeah.
But it's not, especially this one's really not a solid look for like the kind of standards they hold themselves to, simply because Consort has so many meetings. As we have here,
That's
their
what's
own
interesting.
justification for it is very different to what, it's almost a thing of kind of like they're protesting a bit much, where they're looking at and no one's going, that's like a really weird thing that no one liked. People are they're looking at the Dungeon Journal going, oh no, we understand what's going on here. Same with all of the Dragon Consorts. Like there's literally a Hearthstone card called Dragon Consort.
Yeah, and like
it's-
Alexstrasza has a consort.
Yeah, that's how the dragons name their partners. They are consorts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they haven't changed that.
The
so it's-
consort is I believe like the definition, like a consort is they're the romantic partner of a regent, like a king or a queen. So I'm pretty sure in like the UK, like Prince Philip was the consort of
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth. That's an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, maybe are they thinking that there's more? I mean, there's a few things we get into the Dungeon Journal, like if it's more of a sort of a sexual and possessive and sort of objectifying thing, and maybe if it was like a sort of a twin concubine, because I think concubine is the one that's more kind of
yes.
the sort of the sex angle. So yeah, if we go to the Dungeon Journal though, so the twin consorts are said to be the greatest of the Thunder King's treasures. So, that they are, I mean, quite literally being objectified there, but there's a reason for it. I would say, where, Lei Shen is the Thunder King. He's a total dickhead.
He's a tyrant, like.
He's a tyrant. He's a real,
Yeah.
Lei Shen is a nasty, nasty piece of work. So, having these two twin consorts here as treasures, I mean, yes, that's obviously the sort of thing that is distasteful to our sensibilities, but also it's a character that's a villain. So I would imagine a villain would be doing things that are distasteful to our sensibilities. That just kind of makes sense. It's one of the things that makes them villainous.
Yeah, otherwise, they would just be people. They would be villains.
Yeah, rumored to be the only female Mogu in existence, Lei Shen keeps his trophies close and their combined arsenal against interlopers closer. So that was in the Dungeon Journal, where, it definitely, this gives you a vibe where they are, if they're rumored to be the only two sort of female Mogu in existence, then it's kind of like, they kind of exist for the sake of Lei Shen, the Thunder King, the evil tyrant, to be like, ha ha ha, look, these are the only two female Mogu and they are my consorts.
Well, except for the fact that they aren't the only female Mogu in existence. And also, well, it's a kind of thing where it's like, if you look at the truth of it, if you look at the truth of Lei Shen's character and you look at what like Ian says here, that's not any of the connotations that people see when they see, they see treasures. That's not how it is, basically, literally.
Yeah, so
get into that.
If we go to the twin consorts, this is actually some words from Ian himself back in 2013, 14. 13?
13, I think.
13. Yeah, yes, because this is the patch I started this channel in. Properly sort of started it. Ian said, players may have noticed the complete absence of any female Mogu in their exploration of the continent of Pandaria. Players who look closely at the celestial twins will note that they seem quite literally carved out of stone. So this is where the lore comes in. Indeed, these were specifically created by Lei Shen and empowered to serve and guard him. They are a direct reflection of his will, rather than any broader sense of Mogu culture as a whole. An earlier version of the concept for the fight had them actually being spirits of the sun and moon, but that didn't feel quite right, and we all know the only true spirit of the moon is a loon, and clearly she was not locked away by the Thunder King. So this is quite literally a thing where Lei Shen is like, I guess with all of the things that Lei Shen can do, he is like forged these twin consorts. So it's something where it's like, I mean, I don't know if he saw like the other dynasties are like, oh, there's concubines and there's queens going on. And, you know, interesting. Shall I have that?
Yeah.
And then, you know, he goes and he sort of makes it, and it's a sort of thing where you're like, okay, so, I mean, there's one where like, did you just go and make 2 sex slaves for yourself there, big man? Which, you know, would be a thing that would be fitting for an evil tyrant, but also we don't actually literally know if that's even a thing because we don't really know how Mogus work.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they're made of stone, I mean,
they're made of stone, but also like if they're empowered to serve and guard him, from the prospect of what you would imagine of a tyrant king, that wouldn't be the idea. Yeah, that wouldn't be that doesn't fit into any of Lei Shen's MO, as far as we understand it. Unless people are wildly casting, you know, I was going to say wildly casting accusations, like don't falsely accuse that dictator things you didn't do, but you know what I mean. It's the idea of he is focused on militaristic might to a single-minded degree. I think if you look at he's got guards and go, well, I know what you're at, Lei Shen. That's maybe maybe don't project quite as much. If you get what if you get what I'm saying, I can kind of understand how you think away, but
people would say like if they are just guards, then why did he make them in a female form, like as an example?
Because here you literally go, because there are very, very few other female Mogu, almost none. So the ability to create life, he can create something unique. He can create something unique to guard him. You know, they are a very striking figure, being female Mogu. They're unique. It's the same. It would almost be the same idea as just having anything unique
like
for a king,
for the character in a way.
Yeah, you're like, oh well, holy shit, he made the only 2 female Mogu around, and they guard him. So if we go anywhere near him, we'll be killed. That's a pretty strong sense of status. And if you're trying to think of what a villain's character would be, based on what we know of Lei Shen, based on how he goes about, subjugating the entire of Pandaria, kind of militaristic, certainly fits the MO more than the Black Temple Den of Mortal Delights. He didn't have that. They're in a big empty room, standing there waiting to kill people who come by. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think then the thing that maybe perhaps this is something where, because I believe it was only after this that they added female Mogu into the game.
I believe so. I think so.
Now, are they stone wrought or are they like Mogu?
I don't actually know.
I kind of forgot exactly. So it could be a thing where they added them in, and then like retroactively they felt weird about the way that this was portrayed or something. I mean, overall, it does seem like this is something that just about nobody cares about, and maybe people just see it as like Blizzard are trying too hard. And then there's a lot of people who are also saying like, oh yeah, well they're changing all these things in the game, but they're not really fixing their internal issues, which I can totally understand somebody feeling that way. The only thing is, I mean, the literal sort of, developers, they're not really going to be able to fix those big issues, right? So it's kind of, one doesn't really come at the expense of the other, and I think in this case, the other is definitely going to be stifled by it being a big company with a lot of incentives that sadly don't always align with what's best for the workers, which, is bad for them from just a basic moral perspective. Then it's also bad for, the players because... Well, it's the Marty O'Donnell quote, right? The developers of the Golden Goose treat them well; they'll continue to lay golden eggs. So if your developers are existing in a little bit of a hellscape, and then you're like, oh well, why aren't the eggs golden anymore? Oh, we've scrubbed the gold lining off the geese and fattened it up for foie gras, and now it's all horrible, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can completely understand the motive for changing it. It's just kind of, it feels, as a player, it just kind of goes, what are you doing that for? Like, was there something wrong with it? Because if there's something wrong with it, then we're going to look at all of the other things similar and assume there's something wrong with that. But if they're changing just a little bit here and there, it kind of feels like, I don't know, because obviously it's likely, well-meaning on their end. It's just like, what's the point? I mean, there's no reason to be annoyed by it outside of the fact that, is there a potential chance that this will, soften the game where you've got a tyrant king who's allowed to subjugate an entire realm, have that whole story of rebellion that that let's not beat around the bush, closely mirrors real life in more than a couple of situations, and then they're like, oh well, he wouldn't be unreasonable towards women, that tyrant king. Like,
yeah,
I get it, but still, it just kind of.
Well,
I think it hurts the overall feeling of the world largely,
Yeah,
especially if they're implying all those things that I didn't think about before. So.
It's that thing where it's like, you know that all of these things happen in Eorzea, as an example, and it feels like a real world because all of that is portrayed in a believable way within the logic of that world. So I guess for a lot of people, they're going to feel like, okay, so you're kind of trying to make all of these things that could be seen as sexual. You're trying to make them all squeaky clean, but then in the last expansion, Sylvanas went and burned down a tree full of civilians, like killing thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of souls. And it's just that weird thing where people are like, okay, so you're maybe this also happens in movies, right? Where sometimes movies have got to play it, super, super safe with like any sexuality or things like that. But then they can have, complete crazy over the top violence and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, well, why are we, what's up, right? So people feel weird about that. So yeah, it's, I guess, that thing where it's like they're softening all of this, but their story as time goes on really is beginning to feel like a 14-year-old read Nietzsche. And is, just kind of doing this modern edgy arc that's all, shocking and, I will set the world free, or I will set you all free. Azeroth is a prison. And you're like, oh my God. Yeah. So I think it's just that weird thing where there's parts of the game where, Azeroth and Warcraft isn't really feeling like it was to people. And then maybe they see some things sort of changed and scrubbed up in the past. And it's just that weird thing of like the game right now, it feels like it's both super soft, but then it's like super soft and like kind of Careberry and huggy. And then it's really, really edgy in aspects of its plot. And that just feels a bit weird and anachronistic, perhaps. Yeah. And then I think also people probably see this and they're maybe worried about the Den of Mortal Delights, or they're worried about, thematic things from the past, in the game sort of done by villains or stuff, and they're kind of worried that those things will be sort of changed and tinkered around with.
Yeah, it's really awkward. All it does to me, honestly, is create this weird sense of distance that kind of feels like, well, okay, this is an awful world, but it's also really clean. Kind of feels very, I think we've used this comparison before, but it feels very Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah. Where you're like, this clearly doesn't, like, I see what you're trying to do, but it just doesn't mesh. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't work for like people trying to engage with what kind of story you're telling or what kind of world you're trying to craft. It's just, yeah, here's a weird mesh of different values that come in, and it's literally opposing each other at times. It feels very, very, very strange.
Yeah. So I suppose, like, as we try to get to the bottom of that's why there's I suppose why it's being talked about, really, for the most part. So there's that. We'll see what happens as time goes on, I suppose. And it'll be very interesting to see with Aradath. Will they re-record VO lines? Because Makari has said a few times. I mean, it just seems like an expensive solution. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do or anything, because that is more directly, literally a reference to somebody who's now no longer at the company, seemingly for doing bad things. Yeah. There we go. Right.
Move on.
So there's that happened. Okay, getting onto the gameplay bit then. So, Path of Ascension. By the time that I might actually do it, because it'll probably make sense for me to swap my hunter over to Kyrian, it might actually be a bit more doable. And I kind of feel bad for Mephisto. Been following his tweets, and certainly the Path of Ascension is a little bit of a machine for rage right now, because they kind of did some tweaks. Those tweaks solved some problems but created other ones. Then it was just abandoned, and now they're trying to fix it up. So Blizzard is making it so there's no longer a cost to enter the Path of Ascension.
Good.
Oh,
good.
They're making it so you can just go and do the content.
You can do content in World of Warcraft. Fucking
imagine if you could enjoy Horrific Visions without the fear of, like, oh dear, if I make a tiny mistake, my resource will be lost, and I will have to do more world quests and things. Imagine. We just would have unleashed Horrific Visions to be fun. So, that's great. And then the Medallions of Service are now only used in Ascension crafting, which I haven't actually done this system, but Matt, you have. That's like the NPC gear stuff that you...
Yeah, that's that is for your charms that increase your NPC stats for one time only, and that also is for crafting items that you unlock permanently to use in there. So that's what that's for. So that'll be, that should make that a lot cheaper if you aren't spending it all doing, actually getting in, which is nice. Very nice.
The next thing they've done is a nerf, but it's a nerf that makes sense when you understand some of the very top end of like the final bits of this. So there's a baseline 20% buff called Progressive Power that's active for all soulbinds in the Path of Ascension. It's active by default, but you can turn it off via a brazier of Progressive Power that's in the arena. Now, from what I understand, the tuning of some of the really top stuff here was extremely, extremely tight, and would get to the point where people would feel like they kind of have to like cheese. Do some creative use of game mechanics. And if you do a 20% buff to the soulbind, then that's enough that you no longer have to do the creative use of game mechanics to win.
Technically speaking, I would hope so, but I haven't actually bothered to spend enough time in here with all the entry costs to get up to the high level. But as far as I understand from Mandel talking about it, the idea is no, 20% might not be enough, because a lot of the cheese that was required wasn't just because it was like really super hard. There were some cases where it was, make one wrong step, you lose. But there were cases where the mechanics didn't work and you had to cheese around those.
Oh dear.
And a 20% buff might not be enough to actually solve that problem. Which, I'm not completely sure on that. It might be them, they might have looked at it and determined 20% is enough. But it's certainly this is a, I don't even know if this is a bandage fix. This is kind of a full body bandage fix, in the sense of, they have a lot of work to do. They kind of go, gotcha. let's throw a carpet over it and it'll sort of look okay, I think, is generally the move here, I think.
It's that tricky thing for me where, I remember you saying, like, initially, I think we talked about this before, like, the first impression of this is actually very good. Yep. And it's like some fun, well-designed stuff. It's just, it seems like the guy who led making it was no longer at the company, and nobody really sort of picked up the slack fully to fix it. Or, maybe people did, but they weren't the person who initially put in the work, and there's other things to do, and just it ends up, not really being in the best state for a while. But it seems like at its core, there's a bunch of neat ideas in it. I mean, it certainly seemed appealing. It seemed to me as the most appealing of the 4 Covenant activities. Absolutely. Just because that's the sort of gameplay stuff that I guess I'd be a little bit more interested in. And I hope they fix it up. One of the things with patch 9.1 is 9.1 did make it so that you would, as a hunter, in quite a few cases, especially M+, want to go from Night Fae to Kyrian. So it's the sort of thing where if they're going to be easing up the Covenant restrictions, and I just feel a little bit better about just playing a bit more fast and loose with that system, and I know that the Path of Ascension is in a state where it's like actually just there is some fun playable game, some fun side game to do and get some cool rewards for. If I know that, and I also know that like I vastly prefer the cosmetic gear for this faction, then I mean that's on top of Legion time walking, a thing that I know I could do and enjoy. And then certainly with something like the Path of Ascension, if I guess. Yeah, it could be an evergreen feature in the game. I don't mean something to do forever and ever, but hopefully in the next expansion you can sort of go back, take control of one of those soul binds, and it's just kind of there as a thing to do.
There's no reason it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Kind of like Chromie time in a sense.
Yeah, it's I suppose one of the reasons why I'd like to see more Chromie time development. I think Chromie time's just... I suppose it's funny because the game Deathloop that came out recently. Like, I'm not saying that Chromie time is just like Deathloop, but it is some fun time loop shenanigans. And you go in, you get a little bit further, you learn a little bit more, or you read a guide and completely ruin the experience for yourself in order to get a reward quickly. Which maybe we can talk about extrinsic motivation later on. Because maybe for me, it was funny. I did loads of Chromie time on the PTR. And I never bothered to do it in live because I guess clearly I was driven by really enjoying this time loop gameplay and not exactly go and get a reward. But certainly if they were adding more stuff to Chromie time and more rewards to Chromie time, like that would be sort of cool and exciting. And in the same way as, maybe they can take the Path of Ascension and do a version of it in the future that doesn't end up being scuffed. Yeah. I don't know. The friggin' Book of Mercenaries, but inside World of Warcraft. Maybe Lore Walker Cho. I mean, the Book of Mercenaries, it's like a thing in Hearthstone. Maybe Lore Walker Cho comes in and, he's collecting the stories of the greatest heroes of Azeroth. So, maybe you just get something like the Path of Ascension, but you play as Broxigar in a fight. Or, something like that. And, you could do that in a pretty cool manner, actually.
Almost certainly could, yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's a game idea at some stage. So other things, drop rates for all Path of Ascension crafting components have been increased by 10%, and the Soul Mirror Shards can now drop from the Maw-sworn Kyrian in the Maw.
Nice.
So there's that. I have no idea what grinding those resources was like in the past.
So it wasn't too bad for like entry level stuff. It didn't take all that long if you're just gonna get into it. But if you needed to farm, because one of the problems was medallions of service was needed for entry. When it got really hard, you needed a huge amount of those medallions to actually play, and because you had to iterate so many times to get it right. Then you would have to go and grind a load of stuff to craft, but that was a bit of a nightmare. But generally speaking, this is just a small kind of, there are less barriers, there's less friction to actually doing it now. That's what that ultimately accomplishes those changes. Which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Should say thank you to Aaron Scamp for joining as a member, and also because we don't have super chats active right now.
Yeah.
But has YouTube updated so you can do multiple months of supplements? Because pretty cool. Thank you, Omnisaya. But Omnisaya is 4 months said, "Hey, have you seen the Endwalker video for the job changes? I've seen how everyone's basically losing their minds over it in a good way. Yes, we have. Matt's got some thoughts. He's going to let me know what's up with Ninja, which is the class the job I've been playing more recently. And yes, we're going to get to that. It should be fun. And there'll be nice little bit of FF14 later on in the stream.
Yes, sir.
All right,
yes, sir.
Path of Ascension, going in a better direction. I really hope they get that in a good place, because it seems like that was a system that had so much potential, but unfortunately was just that bit held back. Okay. The Shadowlands intro quest line is skippable. They've done it. Now, I have several questions, but...
Yeah, so it's funny. I don't think this is new. Let me just think for a second. I'm fairly sure I did it when the 9.1.5 PTR went up straight away, because I immediately went and started Threads of Fate on level 48 Shaman. Yeah, no, this isn't actually new.
Did it only hit the PTR notes recently?
Yes, but it's been in PTR since live. Unless maybe they turned it off very quickly after, but as soon as the PTR went up, I went and tried, because I wanted to try Threads of Fate in Torghast, and I did that on the 48 Shaman, but I did that by skipping the Mo intro. So I think this isn't actually new, but, it's now codified as something that's actually happening, and there's details on it now. So
Yeah. So to do those details, basically, alt characters can now choose to skip the introductory Shadowlands quest line that takes place in the Maw by speaking to Whitemane or Nazgrim after accepting the Chilling Summons quest. Please note that to enable this skip, you must have logged into a level 60 character who has completed the Maw introduction. For those who've already begun the intro questline, Jaina Proudmoore in the Forlorn Respite Cave will now offer to skip the rest of the intro after the A Flight from Darkness quest is completed and before leaving the cave. So you could still get stuck in there, but the point basically is you can skip the damn thing if you want to, which is great. Now, the big question that I have is, this is a genuine question. I'm very confused why it was not like this from launch. When it was like this from launch in Battle for Azeroth, and I believe the Legion Broken Shore skip, was that there at launch, or did that just come in decently quick?
I think that came in decently quick. I don't remember being there at launch.
Yeah. So, look, it's really quite strange that it wasn't there. It could just have been the situation, though, that they they had to delay this expansion by a month. They were maybe just crunching towards it, and they didn't get around to doing it. I have no idea. It's the sort of thing where there's lots of stuff about the state that your character is in as it pertains to the world from a technical sense. Yeah. I don't know if whatever way this was done, there was some weird hitch that was a blocker, and now they've got the engineering time to work around it. Because it is very strange that it wasn't like this when it was like this at launch.
Yeah. So if I had to offer some sort of hypothesis, it would be that I imagine there's a load of stuff like the Threads of Fate probably required level 50 or something like that. Or required quest completion there, and they just literally had to do a whole bunch of really annoying work to make sure all the flags were set correctly, and they kind of just didn't have the time to do it. That's what my general hypothesis is. Obviously, there could have been something with but I imagine it's something they actually have in, not like an engineering problem, like you said, but close enough in that it needs someone to understand how all of the quest flow actually works in terms of permissions and requirements and prerequisites, and flick all those to the correct way.
Yeah.
Which is, it honestly, I don't know anything about how they develop the game, like in terms of what tools or how that stuff's set up internally, but I suspect that would be very annoying and take a decent portion out of someone's day.
Yeah. And it's the sort of thing, there's only so many someones with so many days, working on the project, and if everything is behind and a complete shit show, then you could see how all of the nice to haves end up falling by the wayside in favor of the need to haves, or the game won't work.
Yep.
So yes,
Absolutely.
there's that. Speaking of nice to haves, though, boots.
Shoes.
So one of the things we noticed was all of these boots. They've actually skinned Bolvar. And this one, they've skinned Mythic Bolvar. I think I've stolen this joke from John or maybe someone on Twitter. But yeah, there's all of these boots, right? Now, these boots, they appeared. Samaya? I've always say keyboard turn.
Samaya.
Yeah, Samaya pointed these out ages ago in the data mining, and of course now they're here in the actual game. So 6 new cosmetic boots are available in the Trial of Style World event. These boots have a unique look for the races that don't normally wear shoes and can be purchased with Trial of Style tokens, and they're purchasable at the Transmogrifier cities on the PTR. Now, way more than 6 were data mined, so we don't know what's going on with those other colorations. I remember some people, I forget who it was, but saying that, there's sets that don't exactly have perfect matching boots. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of the moggers would be pretty happy to have way more boots, be in the game.
Yep.
So that definitely is a good thing. Now, that said, there's also a few glasses that are not in the game. I mentioned there. So it's good these are able to be earned, but how often is the Trial of Style anyway?
I
forget.
actually
It's
don't
a
remember.
really cool event, but if it's sort of that time limited, you could sort of see people not being overly thrilled. But I suppose for a bunch of people, though, for the Mog people, they maybe will have loads of Trial of Style tokens on their tune anyway, so as soon as this is added to the game, they just go to the Mog NPC and buy it up, and they're happy enough.
Aye.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's that.
God, I can't remember how often the trial style is. It's twice a year. Yeah, I was about to say I'm pretty sure it's twice a year. It is twice a year, according to Cool or Cool whatever.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
What if you enjoy the Trial of Style and you only get to do it twice a year?
No, what you don't understand, that's perfectly enough. Because that's once every 6 months up. Content.
I'm fairly sure it's not literally that, but goddamn, that's grim thinking. That's grim feeling, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, it's that thing. It's like, oh yeah, do you like Wrath of the Lich King? Well, hey, it's up twice a year. Do you like the Trial of Style? Twice a year. Yeah. That stuff doesn't feel bad to players. It doesn't feel like a game feature if it has such a humongous asterisk on it.
Yeah.
I saw people comparing it to the fashion report in FF14. I will say, I have no idea what the fashion report is, other than I see a flurry of activity in our guild Discord about it.
Yeah. So
every once in a while.
yeah, for a bit of context, the fashion report is a weekly thing where it's basically a weekly style challenge. It's not like a Trial of Style where you are in a group with people and you're kind of rating what's going on. There's an NPC that rates what you're wearing and gives you the gold saucer currency MGP for it.
Ah, right.
It is basically the best source of MGP because you can get 80k a week pretty quickly. But there's also a title for matching the theme perfectly, and it's a little bit simplistic in execution, where it basically picks from a list of what exact armor piece you'll wear, what color it needs to be. Like, any chest piece with a pink dye will offer points, but if you wear the specific hat with a specific dye, then it's extra points. So it is just a little thing where you could figure it out yourself if you wanted, but there's a Reddit user, I can't remember their name, who just posted every week and goes, here's the solutions every week, and everyone goes, oh, and then the prices of those things skyrocket on the market board, and if you're a crafter, you can make loads of money that way. But
okay. So
yeah.
is it often like gear that is very player obtainable through crafting and things?
Oh, it is. I think the vast majority of it is because it's not like one specific bit of gear. Okay. It's usually a range of gear.
Got you.
For most of it, and that is either crafted gear or dungeon gear most of the time, or even simpler stuff. So it's never going to be like, here's the fending Eden Gate set. It's never going to be that. Yeah. It's going to be something vaguely attainable for anyone who's in the gold saucer.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And
60k, sorry, not 80k. Yeah.
perhaps
But yeah.
Blizzard should maybe think about how there's a lot of people who enjoy transmog. They enjoy the dress-up aspect of World of Warcraft, the character customization. Is there a way that things could be better? I mean, certainly if I was involved there, I mean, I'd be thinking like, how do we get a nice emote mode, like G-pose? How do we get a nice photo mode? Where, maybe just a little sort of radius around your character, you can pull the camera out, give people a few little effects and things like that. And I know for a lot of people that's like, oh yeah, lol, Twitter patch. But there's, for a lot of people, this is very multiplicative content. And, you look at what people are able to accomplish in FF14 with the glams, and you can see it's pretty valid. Now, that said, maybe some dyes would be something you'd kind of need to get that in a better state.
Probably yes.
Because, with dyes you can better match bits of gear to other bits of gear. I remember, I think it was SWOTOR. It had a kind of like de-clown gear myself button where you just click the button and it just kind of makes all of your stuff, like it just changes the color of various different bits of your gear such that it all matches. And I remember thinking that was a neat little feature. But I suppose it's the sort of thing where they have just not constructed their gear in a way that's super friendly for dyes. Even though I remember John saying something about just, do this to this in the model and then, give people a slider or something. And it's like, okay, maybe not a slider, but a range of dyes. Maybe it is actually more doable than we think. I mean, hey, it's Blizzard. They've got money. Anything's basically doable. So if they could do that, it would be cool. But anyway, that's that. That's some fashion for everybody. In terms of content, there is new dungeons coming to Time Walking in patch 9.1.5. And this is all pretty damn cool. So, according to new data mining, many new dungeons, 9, have been added to the Time Walking pool. That is the Underbog, Botanica, and Blood Furnace for the Burning Crusade, Utgard Keep, which that's good, I enjoyed that, Azul Narub, and Forge of Souls.
Oh.
So we can jam out in that for Wrath of the Lich King. Black Rock Cavern for Cataclysm, so you can break yourself upon his body.
That's not Black Rock Caverns.
I'm getting that confused with Stonecore.
That was
What am I
Stonecore,
doing?
yeah.
I've lost my friggin' marbles.
Yeah, Black. Oh my.
That's the one you go to. You
Oh,
get the mole machine and Hyjal that
shit.
takes you there.
I'm sorry, everyone. Cataclysm Time Walking is now a nightmare. Because Black Rock Caverns, that was the one with the lava boss, wasn't it? Where you have to melt the boss's armor plating under the lava. You think what I'm thinking? Everyone's going to die repeatedly all the time. Because even, what's the one? It's even the Halls of Lightning in Wrath. I have groups that die all the time because of not understanding mechanics. Because how do you understand boss whirlwind mechanics? So I can understand the Black Rock Caverns is going to be absolutely, it's going to murder the hell out of people.
Big one for WoD. Grimrail.
Grimrail, that'll be fun.
Yep, Grimrail. Great to see that back. And then Skullomance for Mists of Pandaria. So, yep, there you go. Of course, Dakor's little addition was, let's get raids added to Time Walking. More of them, the rest of the dungeons, updated Time Walking vendors for each expansion, and have it be active every single week on rotation. And then I would add to what Dakor said, let's ensure that the gear is in a decent state so that you could actually want to do it to vary your gameplay. I think that would be a healthy enough thing that would make more of the game you sort of feel, big and active. That's one thing. Another thing is any of those expansion-specific features, the challenge modes for World of Draenor and Mists of Pandaria, we could bring those in. All that stuff, the more the merrier, right? It could be really cool. There's just, there's a bunch there. I mean, you could even do things like if you were to activate or, have a special thing for the dailies from some of those expansions where they could also give you like time warped badges for, I don't know, doing some of the dailies or, just little things of content reuse that it's like, it's not super, super mega fun, but it's like, oh yeah, I could go grind that thing. Yeah, sure. There's a bunch of people who would probably do that. And then, it's interesting to me even with raids too. Like, time walking is a thing to do for leveling, I think is an interesting concept.
Yeah,
to be
for sure.
honest with you, I've not done it in a leveling character in such a long time because usually when I'm leveling, I'm just like, I will go in and I will quest and then I will be done. What is time walking leveling like? And there's also just a bit of me that would wonder, just what could they do there?
What do you mean time walking leveling?
Well, just like level up a tune.
Oh, you mean just doing Chromie time dungeons and stuff?
No, I mean like doing the time walking queue dungeons while you were leveling a character. I forget. Like
So
I know
I haven't done it very much. Last I remember doing it recently, it was basically pointless. It was no real different. It didn't offer any substantially more rewards. It was kind of weirdly balanced, I remember correctly. I can't remember if that was in the favor of the lobby or not, but it certainly didn't feel quite as right as just regular dungeons. Didn't offer enough of a bonus to do it anyway.
Interesting. Well, it's just the sort of thing where, you know, for some players, like let's just say they really like the Worlds of Draenor dungeons, you know, maybe it could be fun to get, you know, just do some leveling via that. It's just an idea. Maybe that's more of a tuning thing for what's already there. Maybe there's more that they could do. I mean, I guess throw some ideas. I've not really thought about it that much.
I mean, that's exactly what Zephyr says. Time walking was slower than regular dungeons for XP. So why not make time walking give a lot of extra XP? Almost like it sort of did recently. And then there you go.
Oh, yeah, they nerfed that.
Oh, yeah. They're like, no fun allowed. I'm sorry, everyone. They did tune it up a little bit again, but it's like, if you've got an event, why not make it an event? Why not make it? It's if you don't make it special, no one's going to make it special because you're the one making the bloody game.
Yes.
Players aren't going to care if you don't make them care. So make them care. Problem solved.
True. So there you go. Look, at least I can say that. Can we expect loads of new content in 9.1.5? No. I would really like to think, perhaps hope, that there being more attention paid to time walking right now indicates that they might want to do something, just more with it in the future. Yeah. Perhaps, with FF14 being the top of people's minds, they're thinking about how they can use their vast library of content, and they can. It would be cool if they did. So hopefully they do, and hopefully this indicates they're paying attention to that. But of course, we can't sort of count our chickens before they eggs before they hatch.
Chickens before they hatch.
Yes, that's it.
Because an egg is not a chicken until it becomes a chicken.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I'm a bit sleepy today. Okay, next bit of news. Here's a very angry looking Kil'jaeden. Yeah. Damn, he's pissed. He's very big too.
Very spiky head.
Very big Kil'jaeden. So, some good news here, actually, everyone. Especially for the as Jack says, the transmogaholics and the solo players, where Blizzard have put out a post announcing legacy scaling changes to some of the troublesome Legion bosses. And that's coming in patch 9.1.5. Now, some of these were difficult to solo, and they were doable. Others were outright impossible. I definitely remember my Kil'jaeden soloing experience and all of the things that you would have to do to make your character not die. Yep. I think I was doing that during BFA, though. Yeah, I think it was during BFA. But they're changing it up now. So for Antorus, Antoran High Command, ANR, Varamathras, the Coven of Shivara, and Agrimar, they're basically all just being tweaked about so that they can be soloed by players. This basically means that with this content being open for legacy loot mode, a solo player can go in and, assuming they can actually kill the bosses, they can just do that as a way to get transmog gear. Yep. And that's great because it's Legion. It had really, really cool tier a lot of the time. Yeah,
and one of the things I think is really nice about it is the actual specifics. Because obviously you go, okay, well, we'll remove, we'll tune numbers. We can just blanket tune numbers, don't think about it. They've actually went, okay, what mechanics are the problem? Which is something, I don't know if they've ever done that before. I think they maybe in the past.
They have. Thorim was one example. The Thorim despawn, they have done that a decent few times.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think this is very nice. Like, very, very nice. Just, I mean, it's just a little bit of care. A little bit of care where someone at Blizzard went, I'm going to fix, because I mean, I imagine this wasn't a big group project. I imagine this was someone going, okay, I've been sitting at work. I've been told I can go do whatever I want today. I'm going to go and do this and just spend, because I imagine it wouldn't take more than a day to go, okay, what's that? What's the problem with Coven? Oh yeah, when you pull them together, there's a shield. Well, okay, a little bit of loot, and okay, doesn't spawn if there's only one player, or in the instance, done, easy.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah, great.
Like that. Do that. Everyone's happy.
Only one that could be missing is, I'm fairly sure Odin. because there's some positional stuff. Now, you can defeat Odin, like, right now in the game. It's just, it sort of requires, like, just a little bit of funky movement. So some people maybe would want to see an Odin change there. Overall, though, this is really good. This shows that, you know, changes like this, these are anti-fun police changes.
Yeah.
These are changes that are thinking, okay, what is the role of these old Legion raids? Right now, it's for people to just go and get some transmog. Okay. And they feel decent to do as well. Like, I remember enjoying it the last time that I did it. Like, just going through Nighthold. And I'm like, cool, this is Nighthold. It's really cool. Or, you know, the time I was going through Tomb of Sargeras, it's like, this is Tomb of Sargeras. It's really cool. So that's a pretty good experience anyway. And now you can just sort of get past those big roadblocks. I think that opens up, you know, for gameplay for people. I think that's all good.
Yep, absolutely.
For sure. So I really like that. And in the way that the fun police is like, oh, were people using that sword to move slightly faster when they were farming things? Well, nerf that. This is like thematically the opposite of that change, it feels to me. And this is the sort of change that gives you good player sentiment. That makes people think, oh, there's someone there that actually understands how I want to play the game this evening. And in the new patch, they're going to make the way that I want to play the game a bit better. Good, I'm happy. Especially when it's a way that doesn't do anyone any harm. So I think this is great.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah, a good way to think. Okay. Next up then, we have a new effervescence visual effect for the Resto Druids. So there you go, but there is the Glyph of Wild Mushroom if you want the spell to return to its more mushroomy state. So basically the floor effect is the same, but in the middle you get this flower. So that's what they're doing for the Druids. Nice to get a new effect. Nice you can use a glyph to get the old one again. Then, PvP Group Finder improvements, where PvP categories now use the player's PvP item level instead of their regular item level. So, yep, I guess that's a little bit of a... I mean, not counterintuitive, because it is intuitive, but it's like a sort of second-order effect of the change that they made.
Yeah,
so it's good that it's updated.
Yeah, that's clearly just an oversight of, oh shit, yeah, whoops, forgot about that one. Sorry.
Then, Corthian armaments. Because apparently, the main feature of our World of Warcraft stream is talking about Corthian armaments. A thing that in the grand scheme doesn't really matter that much, but, you know, kind of pisses us off in principle.
Philosophically, it does.
Philosophically. So, D2R has been a busy boy doing some testing this week. So, something that he missed when testing the new Corthian armaments last week. The Corthian accessory token, which can roll a random ring or trinket, gives rings that are unique equipped, meaning you can only wear one of them at any given time. When testing out the new alt experience on PTR, where I sent the Renown Anima and a full set of gear tokens, I got 3 of the same ring back to back, meaning I completely wasted 1500 Stygia on rings I wouldn't even be able to use. Very fun. Very nice and fun. Oh yeah, I didn't even get a single trinket from those 4 tokens. So this is just a thing of, it's the same, it's reduced in magnitude, but it's the same problem. Just that whenever you do it like this, it's like the percentage chance of a dupe is like pretty high, or, you know, an effective dupe where it's, you know, unique equip. He then said that on top of that, when using the 2 weaponry tokens, I got 2 main hands again. So another 1500 Stygia wasted to make a grand total of 3000 Stygia wasted trying to gear out an alt. So that's not great, and then, since the BOA token was redeemed and the gear itself was not soulbound, it's not as if I could just send the dupe rings over to an alt. So this is just an example of something that Blizzard needs to think about more. This is the player experience. So imagine where a player grinds up all of the Stygia that D2R's just talked about here, and then they find that the token system has wasted that much of it. That's going to create negative player sentiment where they feel like their time is being wasted. That is not ideal. So he says, let's get separate Corthian armament tokens for rings and trinkets and for mains and offhands. Also, there's no neck token, so let's get one of those. Now, beyond that, he's got some updates for us. So, update 1. I also purchased 3 Valor gear tokens, which gave me 2 of the exact same pair of gloves out of the entire Mythic Plus pool. Let's hope that's not a bug, and that was just some pretty darn bad luck. But obviously, this is a case where there probably should be some bad luck protection to prevent you getting literally the same thing again as a dupe. If it wasn't bad enough that these aren't currently slot specific, he's getting the same item, I'm done. And again, this is Valor points. This is a seasonally capped currency. you only get so much of it, so to have some of it be wasted in a manner like that is obviously going to feel bad to a player who has put in the work to earn that currency. So, as Dakor says, let's get slot-specific Mythic Zero gear tokens as well. Otherwise, don't even bother putting them in-game, as they're mostly useless as it stands, especially with the Valor Cat being a thing.
Yeah.
And he's got another happy update for us too, man.
Of course, he's an updatey boy.
Yeah, man does testing, finds out what the realistic gameplay experience is, and it's not always good. I also tested the new BOA Instant Renown 40 tokens on PTR. You can probably guess the experience I had. So I used one of these on a low renown character that needed to get to renown 20 to complete the Covenant campaign. That character is now level 40 renown, but the reach renown level 20 quest didn't actually trigger as being complete. I guess it was my mistake thinking you needed to be at least renown 20 when in fact you needed to be exactly 20. So that really is quite funny. That is something that I do, like, I'm glad this has been caught. He did bug report it, so there's a chance that actually Dakor's testing here in PTR will literally result in this being caught. It could just be that that was, you know, if renown equals 20, then upgrade, where it should be if renown equals 20 or greater. So it's a very simple fix, a very simple change to logic that will allow that to trigger, but, you know, just an example of the type of thing you need to be on the lookout for when it comes to testing.
Yeah, and also not just testing, it's the kind of thing that results of you having to change your design spec later. Because how many things in the game are going to be kind of made like that, assuming, you know, you make a set of assumptions based on the design spec that you know is going around the office, or you know is available, and you go, okay, well, I have done this perfectly to spec. There is no way that this could possibly go wrong. Then, 6 months later, turns out the design spec's been thrown in the bin, and now all of this stuff needs to be redone.
Yeah.
So it's that thing of just, this is the kind of price they pay for having to go back on their designs all the time.
There is one comment I want to call up there, just from Ron, who said, "You just want to buy the gear you want. What would you do after that, though?" The thing is, Ron, like, number one, even if all of this stuff was slot based, the tokens are all random, so you're not literally getting the piece of gear that you want. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there's something to be said for paying a reasonable price to earn a thing, because that then makes a player feel like they can put in the work to earn the currency to get the thing. And then that means the journey of getting the gear that you want is, you know, feels meaningful and feels reasonable because you know what you want, you know exactly how to get it, you know the work you need to put in, and you just go and you do the work. The other thing is, this is catch-up gear, so this is Mythic Zero tokens, right? So this is not super high end level gear. This is not the type of gear that, you know, this is the type of gear that, you know, at most you want to spend a few days getting. Like, say, with the Corthian armaments, I mean, for some, you know, maybe for that more sort of casual player who's not able to just, you know, get a whole bunch of big gear in a character super quick. This is the sort of one where, you know, you want to just get all those slots covered decently quick at a very base level, because, of course, all of those things have got an upgrade system via the Archivist's Codex. So, I mean, I don't think we'd just be saying, hey, we want people to be easily able to earn precisely the gear that they want in a super short time. It's more just if you're doing a catch-up gear system like this, you should probably do it in a way where, you know, you don't disrespect people's time. I think a lot of people would be happier to pay more Stygia for the thing that they actually want, and they'd be happier to put in the work to earn that Stygia than they would for, you know, the thing to be cheaper, but then it to have that aspect of randomness where there's a decently high chance that their work's just going to go in the bin. It's one of those things where all humans have got a negativity bias. That can make a lot of evolutionary sense because, yeah, you know, getting a few extra berries in the forest is great, but the thing to focus more on is not getting mauled by the bear. We do, you know, we just have that negativity bias. It's something that I guess, I mean, yeah, we're animals. It just came up like that, and you know these are still things that we you know we sort of have right now.
Yeah, if I were to add to that in any capacity, I would say that the thing you do once you've got the gear that you want in the game is play the game, because that's generally what the loop of the game, at least what it used to be. Gearing wasn't a goal unto itself. Gearing was a stepping stone on your goal to getting more content. Yeah, that's what it was. It was something you went for a reason.
And I think you could then perhaps say that, yeah, you could then say, It's really bad when you get a text that's really, really funny and it derails you. Shit. Oh my god. I thought there was a really good point coming. Yes, I've got it. I've wrangled the point again. I've caught the news. Right. If in Destiny 2, you know, it's like gearing. In Destiny 2, yeah, as your item level goes up, or your light level, whatever it's called, you do more damage. But different guns feel different to use. So they feel pretty different. In Diablo 3, or Path of Exile, I suppose, but D3 is the one that I have played, you know, you have that gearing loop. But it's not just that your Demon Hunter is the same darn Demon Hunter forever. You know, you'll get different legendaries and different effects. And different things allow you to change your build and radically change your gameplay. Now, there is some of that in World of Warcraft. But the difference is that in something like Diablo 3, like, you are... You know, you're building towards these sets that feel so crazy and so overpowered that it's just that big ARPG chungus. Whereas, of course, in World of Warcraft, they can't do that as much. They can't get as much crazy madness out of how the gear transforms your character. And I think, at least from our perspective, I think this would be the consensus of just about everyone who works here. You know, we do think we should go a little bit more sort of clean and simple, clean and easy in the gear. And then, you know, the game is more than just that. So, yes. As for why I'm reading a text on stream, it's because I use my phone to look at chat while I have the our document up here. It's pretty handy, actually. It fits perfectly in the margin of Notion. So good stuff. All right. So that's that. That's a little bit of talk about gearing. I have now messed up the positioning of my laptop. Epic. Oh dear, it's just falling over. Oh, I've completely fucked it, everyone.
This is what he's generally like, by the way. Just a little thing. Just sorry to dispel any notions you may have of him, but this is normal behavior. Yeah. No, I guess there's not really.
Maybe I should get a stand that is not just repurposing a friggin' Stream Deck stand for a full laptop.
That might be generally
just
helpful.
maybe, like.
Might be it. But if I had anything else to say about gearing, it's just the idea of if specific gear, even just, you know, even if it's expensive is something you work towards, FF14 does it fairly well in that sense, where you go and you spend the effort, and I'm going to have to buy time until you do this correctly. So in FF14, you go...
Please help! It's all gone wrong!
So in FF14, you basically target gear the vast majority of the time you're playing. And that's it.
We've done it. It's fixed. The laptop's here.
Yeah.
All right. Epic. Phew. Okay. Next up, Dakor also said, can we get BOA Soul Cinders? While we're on the topic of some changes in the PTR, could we also get BOA Soul Cinder tokens added so that, you know, the alt-friendliness of the Legendary system is not just limited to the last tier's cap? That's a suggestion that I very much agree with, especially because... You know, you'll be getting a lot more Soul Cinders, etc. in this patch, so being able to boost up and all, I mean, better.
Yep.
So, yeah, currently only it's, of course, the BOA Soul Ash that is available. That gets your Legos up to 235 with not that much effort. So, you know, why not move it on to the Cinders? That would be more alt-friendly. I think, in general, we just want to remove barriers to the game. And, again, it's that thing that I think we've talked about a few times where... At least from our perspective, the gameplay of Legendaries should never lie in the acquisition humongously. At least insofar as how the Legendaries, I think, should be slotting into the game right now. The gameplay of the Legendaries should be in mixing and matching them to do cool things on your character. Like the reason why, you know, you feel pretty motivated to do stuff in like an action RPG is to get the gear that then sort of transforms your build. That does exist here in World of Warcraft, but I just think with how like our end game is, you know, just doing Torghast again and again and again. It's like if in an ARPG there was only like, you know, one way to get the thing you wanted and it was like kind of repetitive instead of, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it would be different if we were getting Soul Cinders from, you know, being a few floors up in Torghast in the Sanctum of Domination killing bosses. Surely they've got Soul Cinders they've got Soul Embers up in the Sanctum. Why do they not have Cinders like? Yeah.
No, I think just to kind of talk about it a little bit, the current design of Legendaries is definitely a little bit more ARPG because we're so far away from the days of what I think I'm going to say I think I like them more, even though I never went out of my way to get very many of them. except for trying to get Valinir and failing during Wrath. But the idea of the legendaries as they were things that you went to get, and it took a long time, and they're really powerful, and they felt great to get. The ones that you weren't guaranteed. So, you're the Fangs of the Father, Valinir, Shadowmourne, stuff like that. And then we moved into the more, everyone needs one of these, but it's really cool and you'll like having it, which was the Mists of Pandaria and the Warlords design, which were great. And then they kind of moved on to it's Legion. The game's half Diablo now. Please enjoy. And it's like I think they've kind of not understood that that's the goal of things.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, so it's an interesting one on legendaries. Not sure exactly how I would do it in the future because I'm very hesitant of borrowed power like systems. I mean, look, to me, the bit that's fun about legendaries is like, what cool effect do I get to have in my character? I wonder if they could deliver us that in a way that is not legendaries, such that maybe legendaries could go back to being a more like super crazy cool,
Yeah.
kind of like, whoa, that person's got that thing. That's really awesome. And then, in a few expansions later, like with, not Telegosa. Is it Telegosa? Yeah, that, somebody can just go and get it again or something like that. So anyway, right, that's the point in the Soul Cinders. As we move on, there are more Sanctum of Domination nerfs, making it ready for Cross-Realm Mythic, which is happening next week. So for Painsmith, they've reduced the distance between floor spike gaps during Stage 2 on Mythic difficulty. Should make things more consistent. And the Shadow Steel change periodic damage is reduced by 15%. And the TLDR of this is you'll no longer need to run from one end of the platform all the way over to the opposite side when dodging spikes in the intermission because they'll be closer together. For Fate Scribe, I'll just do Dark Horse TLDR. Needing two players to move the runes anti-clockwise should happen. Actually, wait, this isn't just Mythic. That's what I'm talking about. This is one that would impact us.
Yeah.
They've updated the rune locations to be more consistent with clockwise rotations and slightly less demanding with counterclockwise rotations on normal and heroic difficulties, and players now have an additional 10 seconds on Raid Finder, 10 in normal, and 5 in heroic to realign their fate. So there you go. They are making that one... They're making that one easier. And Dakar actually says here, funnily enough, the Mythic version of this mechanic is easier and more consistent than on the lower level difficulties. That I did not know. But there you go. That's the knowledge that you get to have when Dakor is knocking around your team, and he's a Mythic Raider. As for Kel'Thuzad, then, I'll just go to his TLDR.
Yeah, massive Mythic changes.
Yeah, so there are health nerfs across the board, both for KT himself and the ads that spawn throughout the fight. Both the dot and the initial damage inflicted from the glacial spikes dying have been reduced, as well as the duration of the dot being lowered. The CD reset change that was suggested in previous PTR notes is no longer happening, with the reason being that making key mechanics easier removes the need for that. So this was just the whole thing where there was a thing going on Kel'Thuzad where people would stop damage and wait for the CDs to come back, and suffice to say, that's not super fun. You don't exactly want to be like, okay, we're in a Mythic raid. Grand, well, I'll put on the kettle while we wait for our cooldowns to reset. Mid-fight. Make a cup of tea.
No, it's like...
Maybe it wasn't literally like that. I don't raid Mythic, so I'm disconnected from that stuff. There's that. Moving on. Sylvanas! Oh, Gen. We have a video coming up in Gen. Hopefully, unlike the last World of Warcraft lore video we do, it isn't watched by literally 17 people only. As for the Sylvanas stuff, health nerfs to arrows and sentinels should make Phase 1 progress more consistent and less dependent on CDs being assigned. Orb damage and Veil radius nerfs should make Phase 2 easier by reducing damage taken and the number of people getting healing absorbs. And the damage nerfs to Fury and the tank busters for Phase 3 should make healing overall easier and the tanks be a bit less worried when collecting puddles on the floor. So there you go. That's going on if you are there doing your Mythic raiding for Sylvanas. Moving on then. Time Walking Cataclysm is up, and you know what? Does it not take on some increased significance now that people know that Legion Time Walking is there, and if they go and they get their Time Warped boyos here, they could maybe use them to get the Aegis of Agrimar. So I think more people are going to be engaged in this Cataclysm Time Walking than in previous ones. So certainly, if you're interested in Legion 1, you want to get a head start, go do this. Also...
Actually, no.
No?
I'm going to stop for 1 second.
Am I talking shite?
No, you're not talking shit.
Oh,
But I just want to say how frustrating it is that the only way to get time walking badges that isn't a massive pain in the ass grind is to just do it every time it comes up once.
Yes.
The fact that you get 500 when it comes up, and then like a small handful, like 10 to 20, or I think it's between 10, 20, 10, 30, depending on which dungeon you're doing, because you get the bonus from the queue and then a couple badges for a boss, I believe. And it's just massive. It's really stingy, and it just, because obviously I've got thousands of badges because I do it every now and again over time, but it just feels like this just not. It's just it just doesn't work for people who don't get to do it all the time. So that's the thing. You won't go grind this to get badges. You'll do one, and you'll go, well, I don't need to do any more because it's not worth my time. I'll wait for later, which means realistically you're only going to get, unless you're really, really hardcore and spam the hell out of them, then you're just going to kind of have like, you know, you could be looking at maybe enough to buy the Aegis if you start now. But it's really, and then obviously 500, because so many things you buy are account bound. You then 500 one character, another character, 500, another character, 500. So you run into this problem where you can do like 10 of them and have more badges than you'll need.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't feel natural or right.
I think if I was to, give any advice, and I'm pretty sure you've already said this anyway, I think that they should overall increase the acquisition rate of time warp badges, but massively make it not from doing one, for that. So make it so that if somebody wants to just grind out a bunch of dungeons, they can actually get a shed load of those badges. De-incentivize just kind of like getting a free win and then everything after that being absurdly inefficient. I think that would get more people in the time walking queue, and that would be good. Especially if they made it so that time walking was viable for leveling up characters as well. Just all of those things to improve the health of the time walking queue so that it's as close to instant as it can be. Those would all be awesome. Now, the other thing is there are some previously unobtainable crafting recipes. So this is not super significant, but these weren't obtainable, for a while in the game. They cost 1,500 badges, which is pretty pricey. So 1,500 badges will let you make some big bear steaks, some lean venison, greater arcane protection potions, ice deflectors, the robe of winter night, and the storm shroud gloves, armor, and shoulders. So some additions there. There you go. I mean, hey. Cool dungeons, cool stuff. It's WoW dungeons. WoW dungeons are great. The more we have reasons to do them, the better. And I think just a world where more time is invested in the time walking system is a really good one. I just, I want there to be regular time walking like this. And I really want mythic time walking where they just crank the scaling up a little bit. I remember it was like the first time I did the TBC time walking, and I don't know if it was the scaling at the time or whatever, but I remember a fair few people dying. This is back in WoD when the time walking system first came out. I remember people dying. Of course, a lot of that was because of the the damage reflect boss.
Yeah. Oh Jesus, yeah.
That was all really fun. But I don't know, man. I think they could probably push the difficulty a decent bit higher, or maybe I guess there are some people who kind of like, they make a time walking set for their character, like they all the gear that will scale up perfectly. There's a bit of me that would wonder, like, would you want to make that not be a thing and then make a harder version and then have a good integrity, or would you want a time walking where you can kind of optimize your character for time walking? You do that sort of harder difficulty. Different ways you could go, but I think they can get more out of it.
Well, I mean,
it's great content fundamentally.
That's the thing that I think is interesting when it comes to difficulty design and when it comes to player freedom as well, where I think that's something that there's so much variance in that you can either have someone who's utterly pointless, does no damage, versus someone who comes in with, everything on the planet that they possibly need and just destroy. So I feel like there's likely ways for them to tune that variance way down, so you go 10% faster or 20% faster instead of 300% faster if you're optimal. So I think that just creates this massive rift in the community of people going fast and slow. So I think there's probably something there, but then I guess are people too used to increasing their DPS by hundreds of percent instead of the 5 or 10% that makes it a little bit more kind of a little bit more reasonable, I think. But that's just an errant thought.
Yeah, so time walking, there we go. Now there are some other things in game. Brewfest. It's Brewfest from September 20th to October 6th. Brewfest is a fun little event. So, yeah, there's that to do. There is the Chow Down. There's the timed events, the Chug and Shock Elementals, the Shoe Pesky Hosen stuff. Of course, there's the keg tapping. There's the dailies. Get your holiday items, which I believe, as of like a decent while ago, you can sort of mog into them while the holiday is there.
Yep.
Including things like the Brewfest Kodo and the Ram. So there is stuff for you to go and get. It's the kind of thing for me where I remember being in a bit of a funk back when I was way younger. It was during Cataclysm, and it's not like the Brewfest stuff had the most like big, crazy, fun content in the universe, but it was just sort of cozy and nice.
Yeah.
So Brewfest just has that little warm spot for me,
Yep.
And there we go. That's the World of Warcraft news. That's what's been going on in Azeroth. There is one other WoW thing to talk about. It is Samaya again doing all this. This is a concept for basically like race combos, lore, and skins for paladins. That is the sort of thing where, man, this would be so expensive to do. But, here's a Sunwalker Paladin concept. Looks pretty damn cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, those concepts are insanely good.
Right? Like, look at all this shit. This is really nice. Nightblade, Moonblade for for like Night Elf Paladins, like another way of, of doing it. And again, that's all really cool. Night Warriors and Priestesses of Elune coming together to create a new order, some cool new, gears and vibes. I like doing these mock-ups in a way that feels Blizzardy as well. It actually makes it feel like such a tangible feature that you could actually imagine getting.
Yeah, there's a world they could do this, I guess. That's the vibe you get from these, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, look at this Veilwalker Crane Guard. Like, they're so cool. So that's really awesome. Man, yeah, there's Lightblade, Shadow Knight. I mean, again, more fun ways of doing it. For the Void Elves as well. That's super fun. Like, look at the Silver Hand Void Elf. Also known as a High Elf. A lot of people would be so down, for getting something like that. And I mean, hey, a Blood Elf can be a Paladin, so why could we not make it happen? Yeah, keep on going. Here's one to the Kyrians. I'm a bit more lukewarm with the Kyrians. I think they're really cool. Sorry, what am I on about?
Kyrians really good.
Actually, begin with K, surely.
Yeah.
So, again, that's all really cool. I could just imagine this being the sort of thing where, put it this way, there's so much art that it basically boggles the mind in making all of this. Yeah. That's the thing to say. You need a friggin' legion of people to make it all. But, I did do that video that was my proposal for Class Order Halls coming back. And my God, I mean, this is the sort of thing I think I would have probably not included just out of maybe fear and doubt, thinking this is not feasible. But I guess it's like a big wet dream. If, you're going to say that, something like that's going to exist. I mean, come on, Blood Knight. People eat that shit up. They'd love it.
Yeah, that Worgen Paladin looked real nice. Real nice.
Yeah, some ones of the Dark Irons. Man, the Dark Irons I should probably go get one of those. Dark Irons are really, really, really cool. So, yeah, look, we just wanted to call this out because, we think it's cool. Samaya's been doing some work there. We covered before, like Lost Codex have also been doing some work. And, there's like with all of these, there is an explanation for the decisions made in the theming. So it's just a really cool content proposal. And I don't know, it's just a mark of the WoW community, that people are actually putting in the work to make that really cool stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
So we big support.
They're gorgeous.
That kind of thing. It's beautiful work. And, I just think, you only have to look at people's reaction to Greenfire.
Yep.
Which was so much less than one of those. And Greenfire was just so loved that it just makes you think, get stuff like that. And especially Greenfire, tie it to a really cool event. I mean, imagine if Greenfire came out at a time where scaling existed. And, that was just that incredible, Greenfire fight that they made was just something that would be a thing. In WoW forever.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
And it's, in its current way instead of, obviously now it's Cakewalk.
Yep. Which is, saying that, if you haven't done Greenfire and you have a Warlock, go do it. Yeah. The book's not that expensive and it's really cool. It's not difficult in any capacity, but it is genuinely really fun to do.
It's just beautiful Warlock, thematic, class content. It's the kind of thing we all get excited about. I mean, I even remember being excited about the Hunter Challenge in Tanan Jungle. It just, any of that stuff that really makes you feel like a character is just so cool. All right. Other things to talk about. SEC investigating the subpoena. More departures. It is time to talk about Blizzardo Entertainment. So, look, we've done 2 videos on this on our news channel, which is, the channel we have that is specifically dedicated to this kind of thing existing. We do a lot of videos over there, pretty much daily, sometimes twice daily, including... we're trying to work in some more, happy, positive things. I mean, look, with the Kenna one, that is us being frustrated at reviewers. It is a positive video because we think Ken is being hard done by in a way. But yeah, there's a bunch going on the news channel. And if you like the sort of thing we do in the stream, should feel right at home over there.
Absolutely.
So to get into this, right? So this is actually breaking news from GameIndustry.biz. SOC Investment Group. Activision Blizzard execs need to be held accountable for toxic working culture. SOC calls for Activision Blizzard to cancel all 2021 bonuses for execs due to unaddressed problems of sexual harassment at the firm.
That'll soon get them to act, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, hey, shit goes bad at Nintendo. What does a WADA do?
Takes half. Cuts literally is paying half and goes. And that wasn't even anything anywhere near this scope. This was literally just, our business hasn't been doing so well. Sorry. I'll do better next time. I was like, what? You mean you didn't double your paycheck and run? What the? That's new.
Yeah, it's the thing, like, if you don't want people to see you as a greedy fuck goblin, you try to do something like this.
Yeah. Jesus,
I mean, certainly, you've wronged your fucking investors, haven't you? So it would be pretty fucked up if your investors felt the pinch because, stock's not being ideal and all of that, but you don't, as the people leading it. That's when it starts to feel like the whole reason of, increasing shareholder value melts away. Because, it's supposed to be, they get a bonus because they're increasing shareholder value, doing their job well, but whenever they're evidently not doing that, but bonuses are still happening, it's like that shit should be slashed. Absolutely. All right, so there you go. It's from SOC Investment, who I suppose are an activist investor. Now, moving on.
Is that the same one?
Is that the one that used to be called CTW?
I think it is. Yeah. Let me just double check.
I think it is. I'll continue on, though. So, yes, the SEC are investigating Activision Blizzard. Now, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission. As an example, if, let's just say, Elon decides to fire out a tweet, that tweet, like his one, taking Tesla private at 420. If you're a publicly traded company and you're saying those things, and when people could say, well, the SEC is going to think, you manipulating the old stock market there, big man. Well,
he wouldn't be at that now.
You can't be doing that. Yep. So yeah, the SEC have opened an investigation into Activision Blizzard's response regarding the ongoing sexual harassment and misconduct. Now this is big, right? Because oh no, for these people, it's like, oh no, the labor board is after us. Oh no, what shall we do? Oh dear, people are angry at us on Twitter. Oh no, our employees are tweeting angry messages at us. Oh Christ, how could we survive? Yeah. That's what they'll be like. But then when the fucking SEC gets involved, it's, oh dear, the only people who have, not the only people, but the people who have a very big bat that, the Bobbert Kotick could be hit with. They are now looking into it. That is quite a bit.
I think that's really funny to me. Where it's like, here's all of like the mistreatment of people. What power's available? Not really all that much, and people just laugh it off with money, get legal firms and run loops around them. It's like, here's the SEC, literally the money people. Like, guess where the power is? I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't the SEC. I was about to start talking about the Twitter case, but that wasn't the SEC. That was a lawsuit where they got fined $800 million. But,
ow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I did confirm the SOC Investment Group are CTW.
Gotcha.
So it's the same investment group that has been on record before. We've talked about them before on a couple of different occasions, who are taking there are a whole number of like firms and genres, but generally Activision Blizzard and EA, I think, were two of their major targets, where they're like, hello investors, do you know that the people running the companies are taking exorbitant bonuses that they probably don't deserve? Should we maybe change that? Would you like your dividend to be larger, but the CEO to not have his, as people always say, his extra yacht?
Andrew Wilson is handsomely compensated.
Yep.
He's pretty sharp too. So, the SEC have got involved. This is the big guns. Now, they've requested a great deal of documentation, and when they request for documents, those documents get handed over. And it's funny with cases like this. I mean, there was a whole thing about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, and now her, sending her message to Sonny, is it Balwani, I think, of, all of the like, oh, you're the rising sun, or you're an island in a vast ocean, and all of those things. So like even her embarrassing private texts are now in the public record because of it, which there's probably things to say about that. Is a bit weird. I remember, I think something similar happened with Jeff Bezos. I think some Bezos sexts or something got out. You're like, oh, I understand why there has to be a process where this stuff is made public, but I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, I saw some of those recently. They're funny.
Yeah, so Bobby Kotick's communications with management and other high-level execs regarding the allegations, those have got to be sent over. Separation agreements with employees who left Activision Blizzard this year. Personnel files for 6 specific former employees, and 2 years of board meetings.
That's a lot of That's a lot of minutes.
That's a lot of stuff, yeah. So that's some big business. Also, the Wall Street Journal reports that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has been running its own investigation of gender-based harassment, misconduct, and discrimination since at least May of last year, and are now reportedly in settlement talks with millions of dollars on the table. So that's also quite big. And again, it's like Blizzard, they walk up. J. Allen Brack, who was it that he said is a saint in the household?
Shit.
Oh, the prominent American feminist figure.
I can't remember it anymore.
I cannot remember shit. But, he makes that statement. And, when he walks up, he's got his pride pin on and all of that. Yet, an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is now in settlement talks with millions of dollars being on the table. It's like, well... could you please live by what you preach? Like, then maybe we'll believe it, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people they're getting suspicious of what I think some call Disney woke, where it feels very corporate and very performative. It's like, hey, we've said the right things. Here's a pride pin of our logo that you can buy. And then, you see bad things going on at the company and it all just rings a bit false. Even though I'm sure the person at the company who made that pride pin and, the people who say those things truly do mean them. It's just if the overall business isn't... Or Gloria Steinem, that was it. So it just makes that shit ring a little bit hollow, and obviously things ringing hollow is not good. So yeah, the SEC have reportedly subpoenaed a number of current and former staff, but Activision Blizzard is seemingly happy to cooperate, with a representative saying that they have made and are making a number of important changes to improve their policies and procedures. And look, hopefully they are, and it is good for the staff there. Right? That would be better. So they said that, and they are cooperating. I mean, they kind of have to. So there's that. Now, Claire Hart's gone. She's gone. She was the chief legal officer. Sort of thing, we don't really know why. It didn't seem like, public positioning-wise, it wasn't super related to this. But, of course, I mean, given what's happening and it's a chief legal officer, you got to raise an eyebrow. And also, the Overwatch executive producer and... So it was another title as well.
He was also he was development lead, and he's also vice president of Blizzard.
Yeah, so big dude. He's gone. Big dude's gone. So, we've... Oh, actually, well, there's assuming jumping ship. She's good people. So,
nice.
There's that, and certainly, look, if there's a reason to be dissatisfied of what's going on internally at Blizzard, Jessica is definitely going to tweet it. So, I suppose that's a good review. Good review of her. There's that.
Yeah, I guess before we continue to further on, Dassel says, can you explain why they have to? I mean, legally, sure, but come on, they will hide stuff. And I think that's exactly why the SEC have stepped in and went, hello, please give us all of your minutes, and if you don't give us your minutes, we will find the ever-loving shit out of you. Anything that Bobby Kotick has officially said to anyone, we need to see it.
Yeah.
And obviously they can hide some things, but the power of the SEC is to go, listen, we will fine you accordingly. And not we'll fine you accordingly like there's a rich person with a speeding ticket. It's we will fine you accordingly. We will literally, we will take the machete to your bank account as much as we reasonably feel. So I think they do actually have the, they do have the impetus to do at least if they have to hide something, they will have to try extremely hard to hide it. Yeah. Otherwise they will get wrecked financially.
Like, I'm not mega read up on that stuff.
Yeah.
But at least from what I understand, the SEC has a fairly humongous gun they can fire in a situation like this. So yeah, there's... Right, so... Oh, whoops. So she's gone. But, you know, at least there's one good review. I don't know her personally, but anyone I know who's worked with her has had kind things to say. So perhaps that is good news. And this is just a regular staffing change. As we move on to Chaco Sony, well, he was executive producer Overwatch, development head Overwatch 2, also Blizzard VP. And he just said that, you know, he's leaving. Well, Activision Blizzard's statement was that he's leaving Blizzard to take some time off after 5 years of service. Saying the deep, talented Overwatch 2 team is making excellent progress on the game, and thanks to their hard work, it's in the final stages of production, and they'll be sharing more of the Overwatch League Grand Finals later this month. So what I'm assuming is we'll find out like beta window, release date, something like that. The next season of the Overwatch League will be played in an early version of Overwatch 2, so all of those things indicate Overwatch 2 soon. Then it's just a case of, you know, for this individual, it does not seem like there's so far anything to suggest that he was involved in any of the wrongdoings. You know, there were statements from the new co-leaders of Blizzard about him being a thoughtful leader, if memory serves. And it's the sort of thing where if there were skeletons in the closet and the new people at Blizzard said good things about him, even though they knew there were bad things, then that would just be such a PR nuke that I really don't think that would happen. So, look, this is just him leaving. Now, is he leaving because, you know, there was disagreement over how Overwatch 2 is being handled, or because we literally don't know?
Yeah.
He did just say he's taking some time off, so maybe it's been a crunchy while.
I imagine if Overwatch, you know, if you joined 2016 around Overwatch's launch and it's 5 years later and Overwatch 2 isn't out, I imagine that was a pretty hefty time overall.
Aye.
Pretty hefty time. For some little bit of flavour about the SEC, I do see people saying in chat that they're the ones with the handcuffs. They can lead to Department of Commerce and lead to arrests. So if you don't play nice by them, they will send you to jail. Which, you know, obviously maybe extremely rich person jail isn't quite as rough as, you know, what you'd expect of prison.
Get a $36 million bonus a year in jail?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So there's that. Right. Diablo 2 Resurrected has came out. It is a Blizzard Entertainment product, but it's not really made by Blizzard. It's made by Vicarious Visions. Now, Jen O'Neill, current co-leader of Blizzard, was in fact the studio head of Vicarious Visions. They're based in New York, and from what we can tell, they haven't really been implicated in really any much of the, you know, the Blizzard and Activision dramas. So there's that. Their previous thing that they did, of course, was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, which was fucking perfect. It was basically your game of the year in a way.
It was close. It was close enough to it, honestly. And before Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, they also made about 7,000 ports for different games. So that's why I think they're the perfect remaster studio for especially this, where you're like, what are we going to do? We're going to take everything about this game and then just put it on this platform or in this form. And they apparently did it perfectly fine.
From what I understand, game itself, excellent. State of game, not the most excellent right now.
I mean, as we have in the title, it had its own Error 37. Now, it wasn't anywhere near severe as Error 37, where no one gets to play. But in terms of literally the same mistake, yes.
Indeed, yeah.
Same mistake.
So that much is very unfortunate. There were some bugs that Dextero found when they were going through for their version of the game. That's basically what's going on. Like, in terms of the core things, like, the art style is intact. The gameplay is great. The updated controls to fit a gamepad, like, I've heard people say, like, oh, it's really, really good, give it a go. Some people even saying that some of those considerations would even be good to see in mouse and keyboard. Yeah. So there's a lot there. Yeah, it's just the problem is it's having its own problems. Now, right, server issues. Look, there's an offline mode for single player, but of course some people want to play this with their friends. Right? Going to suck when this is happening. There's been there's been emergency, unplanned maintenance. Yep. People are saying there's still server issues even after the maintenance. I'm glad I'm not playing this game on launch day. That much is for sure. Now, in fairness to Rod Ferguson, who's sort of leading up Diablo, it seems, at Blizzard.
He's the EP of Diablo.
He's doing a lot of tweets to communicate with the community, which certainly is a good thing. But again, it's just that thing, their stress tests, as he said, the stress tests seemingly weren't stressful enough, and they have been a little bit caught off guard. And, let's risk the stream by clicking onto a Reddit without vetting it first. Could be some fun. There we go. Lots of, lots of fun, fun joking. Let's get top of this week. Good shit. There's Winnie. Lovely. Exactly what you would expect for, a tricky launch.
Yeah,
Unfortunate.
I do see people in chat saying it might be a little bit worse than that just because, there's at least one person's refunded it. There's a load of bugs from the beta that haven't been fixed. Yeah, so Dimillard says there's thousands still not able to play. Half the issues were in the beta and alpha, and they didn't bother to fix them before release. And then there was also someone talking about the AVX requirement. That's the CPU instruction, right? AVX, yeah. So that'll mean that older CPUs can't necessarily play the game, even though it's, a game from 2000. That was I don't know what range of processors have those, but that'll be interesting if it's an issue with if it discounts people in, like, let's say 6-7 year ago CPUs from playing.
Yeah.
That would certainly be interesting. I
would
actually
be shit.
haven't read anything up on that, so that's an interesting one. If you've any other context on that, I will look at it afterwards. But yeah, that's really seems like it's certainly worse than at least reviews will let on, because they're in optimal situations.
Okay, yeah, maybe there is a little bit of deeper digging that we have to do into this.
Yeah.
To see what it's like. And it's kind of tricky because of the project we're working on for next week. I'm not exactly able to.
Yep.
Let's just say my gaming time is fully booked. Top prize to whoever knows that what that is.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. That's going on. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Maybe some further investigations are needed. And there are things like, it's not launching with ladder, wanting to ensure it's stable first. And to a lot of people, that's like, okay, so it's actually not launching when it's finished.
Yeah, it's not done yet. Okay, cool.
And I think that is the tremendous problem of the ability to patch a game. Because the ability to patch a game is really great.
It certainly is.
But it certainly does let you get away with a worse launch than if you couldn't patch. So that's tricky. There's actually, no, as things come in here, DeMiller? Yeah, DeMiller here is saying, like, they said server issues were fixed over an hour ago on Twitter. It has over 1,000 replies saying it isn't, lol. All right. In that case,
Yeah.
maybe stuff is just falling over more. I'm sure this is all very good and fun in offline mode, but that's not how everybody wants to play. There's also the issue of there's actually no communication features on console as well. So you'll have to use your console-provided party chat, not in-game lobby chat.
Which
I'm sure is not the biggest problem for everyone, but, it would be nice to have. Probably should be there.
I think for at least the Switch, you need to pay for that. This did launch on Switch, didn't it? Or are they holding that off? I can't remember
I
anymore.
have no idea.
I will double check that because I don't want to
honestly,
be dumb.
I'm not a massive ARPG person, so
Yeah.
for me, most of this game was just skill ups review
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's absolutely somebody that I trust in the RPG, sort of loot shooting genres and vibes of games, and it seemed like things were very good. I think Kenneth Sorensen said maybe not the best ways to poke you. Do you have any teases or news? It's part of the reason why there's perhaps still a pretty tired and hardworking Thomas in the other room who, I'll tease it later. Let's just say he's got a very interesting job on Tuesday that I don't really think any of us could have predicted.
Oh, yeah.
Which will be very cool. Okay, to anybody in Northern Ireland will be extremely cool, I think.
Definitely.
Especially given particular TV shows and things that just about everybody in Northern Ireland has probably watched. At least some people who've watched a few shows international, you might find it interesting as well.
Yeah. Certainly interesting things happening in this room behind us.
Yes, we're gearing up for more there. It's just the sort of thing where, full communications about the game is, it's literally out of my hands. Because if I just go and blab a whole bunch, then...
they're up shit creek.
They're up shit creek as well, right? God, yeah, imagine that would be such shit creek. That would kind of, that would really throw. Yeah, anyway, good. So that's why we can't really do a big slippity slip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. let's talk a little bit about Final Fantasy XIV, Realm Reborn. It has a free trial up to level 60 that does include the critically acclaimed Heaven's Word expansion.
And also the players are added again, which, you know, in a lot of situations you would expect an added again to be a negative thing. But in this case, it's them going, there was a human who was very important to this game, and they have passed, so it's time to pay them some respect in game, which is testament to how nice a world it is and how the community come together in moments like that.
Yeah, it's just a nice, touching moment.
So there's the Heaven's Word character called Edmund Ifferton, was voiced by Stephen Critchlow, and he recently, unfortunately, passed away at the very young age of 54. And much like how back when Kentaro Miura died, the author of the Berserk manga, which has been a massive influence on kind of Japanese media culture, and specifically the Dark Knight job, people formed vigils. So again, they did the same thing here, where they put on the House Vertamp's kite shield, representing the house that the man was in service of and was in charge of, and then set up a little campfire for themselves, lined up. And it is, it's just a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to do for everyone to come together.
It's one of those things where, you know, it just makes, in a way, like, it makes the work feel bigger. And, you know, like, just like it truly is a world. And in the same way that in the physical realm, people will hold a vigil. It's a big shared thing in a digital world. Well, you can do a bigger visual. You know, everybody can come together in paying respect. So it's just a nice thing. You know, it's a nice thing. It's a good thing that happened. And I mean, man, yeah.
Yep, certainly something.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not really sure what else to say, but it's good stuff. Good stuff. We wanted to call it out because it's just, you know, good that that's happening. I think people should know.
Absolutely.
Should absolutely know. Now, for Final Fantasy XIV, there has been a fair amount happening. They had their jobs trailer. There was, of course, the live letter from the producer.
Yep. We are...
And, of course, your big topic. We need to get to your big topic.
So we are very much gearing up for Endwalker, essentially,
We are.
because
Absolutely
that is a... Let me just check the Twitter account. Twitter days until Endwalker. Christ. I really should use a calendar instead of this, but let's see. What's the most recent? 55 days until it enters early access. So we're getting very, very close. And as a result, we've got, if you want to throw into the job updates there.
All right. Let's roll.
We've got the live letter and the job actions trailer. But they come out with going, yep, it's about time. Get excited. But it wasn't the case of, you know, hello everyone, here is everything that is coming up. They went, here's the job actions trailer, and we'll explain some stuff. Some of it because it's not finished, but some of it also because they're like, you know what? We're going to try to do this a little bit in a fun way so the community can have fun as well. At least I think so. That's what it is. But I'll kind of run through the overall changes first, which is the order here is a little bit kind of out, and I've selected things from the changes that I think will be kind of more widely obvious and more widely interesting. There's a lot of minutiae that I won't get into here because it's realistically not my place. So I'm spending a lot of time looking at it because you know how people are. They have they checked every They checked every frame of the job actions trailer for interesting things.
Yes.
And I mean literally people looking at final frames to see if there was a circle underneath an ability to check something. That's Matt in our RFC doing that. But
Good man.
yeah, but people going over like every single second of every single tooltip in Japanese, translating it, trying to piece together exactly how Summoner plays, for example. But it's a fun time. So one of the first things that I thought was really interesting is them codifying existing player behavior, because they've taken the idea that the players have been using recently, which is the barrier healer and the pure healer kind of separation, where you want someone to have strong healing throughput, and then you want someone for barriers to make sure that tanks can eat tank busters safely, you know, add a barrier on top of healing, people are safer overall. So it's interesting that was kind of, because I mean, it happens in World of Warcraft as well, where people will take, mitigation and also take good healing, that kind of thing. Well, I mean, Holy Paladins do both, so they win. But they've now made it for the, in Endwalker, for the Raid Finder, the Q will actually take into, the automated Q will take into consideration the difference between a pure healer and a barrier healer. Even though it's not represented anywhere in game, it's just, this is how the system works now. You guys have been playing it this way, so we'll update the system to match how you've been playing it because you've figured it out. Which is the split between there's 2 healers that are pure healers and 2 healers that are barrier healers. So it's a minor thing, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really, really cool overall.
There's going to be more balanced groups for everyone. So.
Yep. So it's really, really nice. Then there's the Party Finder updates, which is basically, to sum it up, they're adding weapon coffers to trials. So one of the things that, stop me if any WoW player finds this familiar, but a lot of stuff that drops in coffers, which is not an item itself, but it is something you use, and it will give you an item for the class, for the job that opened it. So it's a token in that sense. Yeah. So trials usually just drop weapons. So if a weapon drops, and say it's a weapon for a job that isn't in the group, or it's a weapon for a job for someone who already has it, shit out of luck. Someone has to take it for an alt or take it to desynth for crafting materials, something like that. But now they're just drop a coffer as well. So then they've just increased the amount of loot and reduced the amount of times where loot is bad. So I think it's just one of those really small things that's really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And then there's one of the big things that I think, you'd be surprised, and I imagine once we get into Endwalker a little bit and we're playing it, we'll kind of go, what the fuck, how was this not already in the game? Procs that are displayed via buffs are now a separate category. So in the game, you've got the status bar, which shows all buffs and debuffs. You can split that up into buffs and debuffs. You can kind of show them up separately. I think they call them enhancements and enfeeblements. Now there's conditionals, which are basically your proc buffs. So you can have, instead of having to parse where your straight shot ready as a bard or where your thunder procs are as a black mage, you can now put them somewhere else on your HUD. Nice. Which is a minor thing, something in World of Warcraft we've solved via add-ons a million years ago. Yep. But because of the lack of those, there they are now in Endwalker going forward, which is just nice. And then they've also copied from World of Warcraft again, believe it or not, with ground targeting. Because one of the things I found really, really bloody frustrating about Shukuchi, which is the ninja movement ability, is that ground targeting in FF is really, really quite bad.
That's not a fun one to use in a controller.
Yeah. I mean, it might still be worse on a controller, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite bad in the sense of, in World of Warcraft, for example, your mouse snaps to the range. So you never click out of range and the game throws an error. That's not the case in FF. You can, if you're 1 pixel further than your max range, your click won't work. And then you've just died because you were greedy and waited to the last second. So you have to actually, manually be in the right place. Because people don't like change, they've also kept an option to turn it back to the way it used to work. But they're adding it in this one now. It stays within the range, so you can't fuck up your click. You'll always go max range, and you can just press the button again instead of clicking, which might be a little bit faster and a little bit nicer, which is very, very nice.
Good.
Very, very nice. Absolutely.
Stat Squish.
That one's going to be fun because this is the first time it's happened in this game. So at least, I think they've made some changes before, of course, but this is the first big stat squish. So everyone's like, "Oh, are you going to destroy the balance of old content?" Shit. We've seen that happen somewhere else, but they're very much promising. We're going to go over everything and make sure nothing feels out of whack because so much of old content is valuable. So they're going to stat squish, and hopefully this helps some. Based on how they seem to run into some architectural problems with numbers and statistics and very specific memory allocations, hopefully this helps both readability at the end of Endwalker and also helps substantially for the, for any technical issues they might have. It reminds me of the World of Warcraft stuff where it's, why is Preach's hypothesis where roll a dice, easy. That's how the game used to work. Now it's roll 1,000 dice every interaction. That's why lags are,
Yeah,
ruined.
because designer doesn't really know what to do for a new thing. So random proc. Let's have another one that you won't notice, but will probably tax servers a whole bunch more.
Yep.
Fun.
Absolutely. And then one of the last overall changes is the belts are gone.
Yeah.
Belts are gone. That's completely and utterly insane. Like, it's such radical thinking as far as I'm concerned that it's like you're just removing an item from the game. Like, you're literally, oh, this is what you've always been wearing. Did it serve a purpose? Was there a reason for it?
That stick.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
literally just stats because there's no visual. It's basically outside of the soul crystal, it's the only item that doesn't have an appearance.
Yeah.
So they're like, why the hell is it? Why is it there?
Yeah.
We'll just remove it. And they're handling it reasonably well, where they're going, okay, if you've got belts, you can keep them and sell them, whatever else, or desynth them, whatever else. If they're on your character, well, you can pick them up again if you want. They're not being removed from the game like database wise. It's just they're no longer part of the game going forward. And also they're doing that for they're using this ability to keep the armory chest cleaner, because one of the things is the armory chest has a limited number of slots per item. But with extra jobs coming in, you're going to need more. Not going to need more gear per se, because they'll use existing gear sets, but they'll need new weapons. And I think it'll only be like 2 extra slots, but it's still enough to kind of tilt the balance towards if you have every job weapon and every combat job and every crafting and gathering job, that's going to have no room for you to pick up another weapon. So like, right, we'll reallocate the memory there, throw loads more extra stuff in, and it's just, really quite nice.
Yep, serves no purpose in the game, gives you more armory chest room, so kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And that's
we've got the Ethernet UI.
Yeah, the Ethernet UI is
better.
Very nice. It does look better. I'd like to see what it's like in game in terms of functionality wise.
Yeah.
But because all we literally saw was this and a little bit of talk about it, but it's just the idea of, yep, there you go. There you go. We've just made this change.
Yeah.
I suppose I should address why Lulu from Final Fantasy X is there. And I think it might be obvious. I said Tetsuya Nomura is bound to be furious, but yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, Nomura's one hell of a fella. He's the character designer for a lot of Final Fantasy stuff in the past, and that man loves his belts. So now Final Fantasy games removing belts. There you go.
Yeah. So next, then we've got the job action trailer, which was big. I looked at it. I was like, look at all of the cool animations. How pretty.
Yep.
I also have no idea what really any of this is doing because I just don't know all of the jobs. But want to talk about things then.
Absolutely. So there is a note here where I have said I'm far from an expert on a lot of these changes, especially when it comes to looking at detail for changes. Where, like, as an example, I'm not going to watch the job action trailer for a machinist and understand really what's going on, because I've only played it at somewhere around the 30-40 range, so I don't know what everything looks like. But in terms of what they talked about in the live letter, there's interesting philosophical stuff that I think is nice to see and nice to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. And that is the idea of them going, we're building on existing classes. We're adding new actions. What we have in Shadowbringers is good, but we're bringing them forward, which means we're going to simplify things where we think they don't need to be any more important or more extravagant, and then we'll add on top of that really nicely, which is just, basically the philosophy they've always had for the overall game, which is to build on it and build on it. They've had a couple of kind of nutty things happen with classes over time, and one of the things they did address was that a lot of players look at the 3.x Heavensward jobs and the state there as basically the pinnacle, kind of in the same way people would look at Miss Imitaria as the pinnacle of jobs or of classes in World of Warcraft, in that they were the most complex and they were the most thoughtful and the most engaging and the most interesting overall. But I think they kind of went, that's too complex. We prefer the design we've taken them recently, which is fair. If they made the changes in Stormblood, likely with a purpose. So we're going into Endwalker with everything that we know. We're going into everything outside of Summoner and the new jobs. We're going in with just better versions, and that's the thing that's incredible. Everything is better. I don't think there's any job that is understood to be worse, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but there's
It's
only...
like, at worst, it's like people feeling like there could have been a bit more, like with bards.
Yeah, it is the worst overall are the scholars, and their problem is that they only got a little cool new thing. They didn't get many cool new things, which is, compare that to basically any time any developer changes any other game. And I think it's a complete win if people say, I feel like I was kind of, I went from fairly happy to fairly happy. You're like, sweet, well done, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
different to, some few of the recent WoW things.
Yep.
Right, with like the AoE cap and the GCD change and just those sort of big things that put a dampener and an expansion from a gameplay perspective for quite a few people.
Yep, absolutely. So in terms of the more philosophical stuff they're kind of going through, they've taken the approach to go, okay, we have a lot of 1 minutes cooldowns, a lot of 2 minute cooldowns, a lot of 3 minute cooldowns. That means that raid burst windows, which are very important because of things like battle voice that overall increase the raid's ability, are kind of like, okay, well they're a bit hard to utilize effectively and require I guess, and this is like my words as opposed to theirs, but I guess it's like unintuitive as to when to use your stuff, because if you use it on cooldown yourself for your personal maximum DPS, it won't line up with raid cooldowns all of the time. So fuck it, we'll change it all.
Yeah.
We'll change it all to 60 seconds or 2 minutes. I think there's a couple of things they haven't changed. Like, I think it's Black Mage Leylands are still 90 seconds. So it only goes with every other, what do you call it? Well, yeah, 90.
There's one thing. So maybe for scholars,
yeah,
don't know if we're like, there could be more dissatisfaction in scholars than maybe there. From at least reading a little bit of chat, it seems like they lost a whole bunch of their toys and they maybe weren't the happiest, and really they want those toys back, but instead this is just kind of doubling down on maybe what they didn't exactly love currently. Yeah, that's the best that I can read on it. So certainly I'm sure there's some scholars that are happy enough, but there's probably scholars who don't really feel like this is lining up with what they want. Yeah, I guess it would be fair to address if it's a problem that happened with Shadowbringer's introduction, then I could see where they've kicked the can down the road of a problem. Yeah, which I could understand, but I think there's a substantial amount of people are sort of not really too concerned. Gotcha. Obviously, I imagine a couple of mains are annoyed, so it's a shame, but I really shouldn't say this. It's so unfair. You're a scholar, you can go play summoner because they share the level. True, but I feel like a lot of people are now like actually traveling through the matrix to end you. Yeah, I mean that's why I prefaced by saying it was unfair. It's just a joke I've seen. It's just a joke I've seen. It is fair to be kind of annoyed, but go play Sage. Fuck no, I just stop. But yeah, so they are going for the 60 seconds, 120 seconds overall, and that's just like more intuitive, more alignment. Is it technically making it easier for people to align stuff? Will it make it easier? Almost certainly, but it's also like, yeah, this makes more sense now. Yeah, I guess one thing that is like if you're not super happy with one of them, it's maybe a little bit less like in World of Warcraft where it's like, oh, you've grinded up all the legendaries on that character and on this and on that, and you've done the Covenant on that character. So if you want to change to a new form of gameplay that you have leveled up, there's a whole bunch more chores you'll have to do to get that up to snuff. Whereas at least in FF, you can be a little bit more flexible with what you do. Yeah, you can basically level any other healer. Immediately all your gear works. You have to learn it, of course. Maybe you don't like it as much, but at least there's Sage, I suppose. Yeah. So, for many jobs, important buffs applied via single target attacks can now be applied via AoE, which the Samurai are happy about. Yep, Samurais and Warriors are particularly happy about that. It is very, very nice to just see, a very annoying problem be solved. Because it would be, especially if you needed like short-term AoE, because you're running into a pack that's going to die, or if you're like me and currently leveling by going home and doing main scenario roulette once a day and basically nothing else for a bit on Samurai, then it's really annoying going, okay, well I have to generate my buffs through single target, which means it's going to be, unless I use Mekio, it's going to be, is that 1, 2, 3? Yeah, it's going to be 4, well,
I guess if I were being optimal, it's going to be 5 GCDs before I can press my AoE buttons.
Right.
Because of these buffs that I feel like I need, that feel good and etc. But then you've got the, they're like, okay, well that's a problem. You can now get the buffs from your AoE abilities, because usually the AoE abilities just extend them as opposed to give them to you in the first place.
Gotcha.
So you set them up once and then you hold them for as long as you're AoEing. But in this case, it's like, here you go. Just you go into AoE, you press AoE buttons. Isn't that a bit more intuitive overall?
Good. Problem solved. People happy.
Yep, problem solved. And then another problem solved is ranged attacks. So melee and tanks always have their little ranged attack for tanks, picking up aggro, or for other ones just to kind of stand away and go, well, okay, I literally can't be in range. So as a samurai, I'll NP from far away, or ninja will throw daggers.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. But because that's a weapon skill, it broke your existing weapon skill combos. So if you were a ninja and you were like, okay, I've got my, I've got the first part of the weapon skill combo set up. Second one, sweet. Oh shit, mechanic. I guess I'll jump out. Throw a dagger. Ah shit, I broke my combo.
Yep. It would suck doing that when you're about to use the third part of your combo as a ninja. So that's great.
Yeah. So
Shit.
obviously you could say, well, just play properly or whatever else. Just make sure you're not mid combo when you have to move away. But obviously that's not realistic. But it's like there's a loss of potency that just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right. Didn't feel like it had a purpose. Like it's gone now.
Yeah. Good.
You can do that all you want. And then obviously the other thing is that some abilities are getting 2 charges, which is something you see in World of Warcraft a lot, that you talent into 2 charges, because it is literal a improvement of quality of life, but also gives you an ability of like freedom.
Yeah,
it makes do I use this?
Yeah, it makes the rotation a little bit less more fixed, which means you're more flexible, so that you can better fit the fight without like just breaking being optimal.
Yep.
Which is good for people. So next then for the tanks. Right, so defensive buff times will be more important. They'll convey greater benefits. So basically, are they buffing offensives to make those a
so there's an
important part of the sort of kit?
Yeah, so I don't know if we have a whole bunch of flavor on this in terms of what the community knows so far, but as far as I understand, it is effectively, as opposed to a defensive buff that lasts like 20 seconds, so you just use it, and as long as the incoming damage is within that 20 seconds, you're okay. It is more, they will be stronger for a couple of seconds, or they'll provide greater benefits for like someone else or something like that.
Right, so
as far as I understand,
tightening up the gameplay.
Yeah, so which is kind of similar to what I really liked about the Legion design for tanks, which was the focus on active mitigation, where it's like, okay, abilities going up, Shield of the Righteous now. So it's that kind of thing where you're being a little bit more reactive and a little bit smaller of a time frame, which I think is overall probably good design, but we'll have to see what the actual implementation of that is, which we will largely find out once the media tour opens up, which is October 13th, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So that's soon. And then they kind of they're also simplifying damage calculations across physical and magic, which is just mostly an internal thing with like magical damage calculations are more difficult to understand. So we'll change them up to make them a little clearer to kind of keep them similar across the board and not get out of the, not get out of the way.
For Paladin, I saw someone in chat say they get a new rotation and they're happy. So here Paladin gets big new abilities that look gorgeous. So that seems like a straight upgrade.
Yep, they just get I believe they just get a straight up new combo on top of, I can't remember what it was, but whatever ability it is, they just get a straight new combo on top of it, which is great. Gunbreaker gets some nice changes as well, which I think some people are very, very slightly annoyed about, but not largely. But Gunbreaker basically has almost the most inputs, not of any job, but it's a lot of inputs, to the point where my setup that works for like almost every job fails on Gunbreaker, because they have, I believe it's a combo, a cartridge combo, or a couple of cartridge combos, and then the continuation stuff, which, is basically, instead of using these abilities, use these abilities now, but they were on different buttons. So now they're like, well, that doesn't make a whole load of sense. So we'll just, like the full intent is for these abilities to replace these ones while this is active.
Is it like for a WoW player to understand? Is it like if you're a demon hunter, you went into Metamorphosis, but the replacement for Blade Dance and Chaos Strike were actually 2 separate buttons that had to be in a different place in your binds?
Basically, not for the same duration as that, but basically, yeah. So they're like, yeah, it just updates now. So you just press the same button.
Cool.
And, of course, then they're going to get some more buttons. Because that's one of the things they do basically every expansion where they're not reworking stuff. It's just, here's some more buttons. Here's some more buttons. And replacing a button with another button that does something new, as in same physical button, but in a different phase it does a different thing, is a bit of a running theme. Bit of a running theme for this.
I think, do I get some of that as ninja?
Yep, you do.
Yeah. So
you do. Bards also get it.
For warrior, some mobility and quality of life.
Yep. I'm not completely sure on the specifics of this because I didn't really look into it too sharp. But basically, they get their mobility taken away from causing resources.
Ah, right. Okay, that's pretty big then.
And they just get a whole bunch of quality of life changes that are just small things that are nice. Just little tiny bits moved around. At least that's what's been confirmed so far. And they're going, let's just press more buttons. Have more fun. And then Dark Knight are definitely the one of the other jobs that feel a little bit hard done by comparison, because they have a couple of issues with how their cooldowns work. It's Blood Weapon and Delirium, I think, of like a weird interaction that doesn't quite work as well as other jobs, other tank jobs do. So people are like, piss this. This is quite annoying. So they haven't had that solved, at least not that we know of yet. That could still be in the works, but they haven't had it solved. So they're like, this is kind of shit. The only update they had, which is kind of attached to the ground targeting changes, is Salted Earth, where that's their, effectively their version of a Blood Death Knight's Death and Decay, or a Consecration. But now it works like Consecration, where it drops where you are, that's where it is.
Convenient.
As opposed to you throw it over there.
Yeah.
Which, kind of will definitely hurt some people, because, you expect, well, there's the pack, I'm going to fight them there. Salted Earth. Yeah. But now it's just, I'm standing where I'm going to fight Salted Earth, which now means that all damage versions look there, like all damage versions of that ability, that kind of ability, like the Doton for Ninja, is just, the damage goes on the floor. That's how it works now.
Okay.
But ground targeting stuff for the Shuguchi teleport, or for any of the placed abilities that are beneficial, because all the placed abilities are now beneficial, basically. And all the damaging ones are just at your feet. So that's a weird change, but it sort of completely codifies the language across it all.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice there.
Well, for the melee DPS then, so Dragoons.
Yep.
Dragoons are getting some changes.
Yeah, they get Blood of the Dragon, which was a thing that they had to activate via specific buttons, specific ability usage, which would buff their jumps and dives, is now just a trait. So just a thing that they didn't like seemingly universally as far as I understand, that was just a little bit annoying to use, is now just gone. They're like, okay, you have the benefit without any effort. And of course, here's more AoE stuff, and I imagine they're going to do more things. They're probably going to give them more actions later on to make up for this, like most jobs are getting. And then over on Monks, they get instant transmission. So basically they had a movement ability that was a shoulder dash that did damage, and now they've changed it to be a kind of a quick teleport, like a Shimpo, like a flash step kind of thing, for that Monks would, the general high chakra based chi based fighter in any anime would use, where they're so fast you can't see them.
Yeah.
So they now do that, but they've got a couple charges of it, and they can do it to allies as well as enemies. So they can teleport all around the place, which is very, very nice. They also get a couple of changes that make them just a little bit nicer to play, like 2 charges of perfect balance. They've got the new Masterful Blitz, which is kind of in perfect balance depending on what abilities they use in which order. They'll get an additional effect at the end, an additional move that they can use, which is
some of those being removed.
Yep. So
because I'm seeing more and more pushback against positionals.
For Monks specifically,
a few games, because there's been a little bit of discourse about parry in World of Warcraft as an example. Yeah,
well, it's been a little bit. I think the positionals for Monk was basically, they know the positionals require additional cognitive load. They're more complexity in this. So they went, we're giving you extra perfect balance, we're giving you Masterful Blitz, we're giving you all this movement. So we'll take away, I think it's 2 of their positionals are taken away, just to kind of go, okay, you don't have to worry about them too much. Which is one of the things where Monks really got kind of owned, and they were constantly moving around the boss, which is just one of the things. It was unique to them, but it was so much harder to keep track of versus, how few positionals a samurai or a ninja will have to do, or even a dragoon, where it's, it's a small thing that you can do. You should be doing it at all times, but it's not, it's not all the time. You can stand still and play for a little bit.
So for Samurai then, one of the ones I was interested in playing, I think I'm going to go for a Machinist next, but what's up with Samurai? Because it's something I remember, was it at the end of Stormblood that I remember hearing a bunch of people say like, oh, that was the peak of Samurai or something. So I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be entirely sure about what it was used to be like, 'cause I think Samurais are fairly happy now.
Oh
At
yeah,
least,
No, I've not heard any bad sentiment. I just remember seeing a few comments about how like there was a version of it in the past that like had a little bit more, but I don't know. I'll take those comments word for it.
Yeah, so I know I'm about to be completely and utterly killed by Matt for saying this, but I'm not completely sure outside of their basically their big cool attack that they saved up the resources for was Midari, which is this big charge slash thing. They also had the Tsubamagashi, which was you basically repeat the last EI Jutsu action, but big. So you've now got they had the big ability and then the bigger version of the big ability, and now they've got additional charges of that, and then another bigger version, which I'm not sure of the specifics of, but they definitely just have big cool new move.
Cool.
Big cool new move, as well as the ability to start their buffs off an AoE combo.
Nice.
Which is way, way, way nicer.
So
and then Ninja.
For Ninja, it's fun because you got me into Ninja. I've been playing Ninja as my main job, and so I actually at one point decided to be like, wait a second, I should probably learn to play this properly now that I'm going through the ARR patch content and I'm like doing the Maelstrom Primal and everything. So yeah, a lot of it is basically Shadowfang is like the 5%. Right, was that 5% damage window?
No, Shadowfang's the dot.
Sorry, yeah, Shadowfang's the dot, yes. So your whole thing is use a trick attack, isn't it? It's a 5% damage window. Yep. I'm at that stage. I know like the thing the button does, but I'm like, the names still aren't perfectly there. But basically, you open up your damage window and then per GCD, Shadowfang is a pretty damn chunky amount of damage. So that's like, one of the things you would really want to squeeze within that extra damage window. Yep. So how's things different now that Shadowfang is gone and we don't have that dot?
So it's one of the things where I think they might be the ones with the that will play largely similar, or at least not have any additional complexity added to them, because they went out of their way to say, listen, we know Ninja can get really tricky and really heavy on the APM at certain times. That opener is a nightmare to do properly, so we won't add more complexity. But here's some cool new things. So Shadowfang's gone to make room for them adding new abilities. So the self-buff Huton, that was basically an out-of-combat buff that you applied to yourself. There is now an attack that applies that. We're not sure exactly what that attack is, if it's a replacement for Huton or if it's like a follow-up, because what they've done is for Raiton, Katon, and Huton. I think maybe some others. I think it's only those three I remember though. Those are the three ninjutsu you'll use depending on your murders. They now have follow-up attacks, which means if you do your Raiton, lightning comes down, hits him, that button will now do another attack.
Just afterwards.
Which is a follow-up, which is just a cool new attack.
So it's literally just that button gets you another button, another cool thing, but not more complexity.
Yeah, I believe that's how it works. I'm not.
Okay.
We don't know the specifics outside of that, but it's like those. So it looks really, really cool. Oh yeah, Doton is an interaction with the AoE combo now, which is nice.
Sweet.
So there's just basically new abilities that look really cool, because one of them, which I guess is the Huton follow-up, is this big wind uppercut, which is really nice. The right-hand one looks absolutely class. It's just this big explosive lightning attack. And it's just the idea of the ninja, like the ninja player is now a little bit more attuned with their ninjutsu. They can now interact with it a little bit more. I'm talking thematically more than like gameplay-wise. But it's, you now feel like a stronger ninja because you're doing these cool new abilities that sound great and look great.
Yeah, I guess if there was like one part of their kit to add stuff to, it would be the ninjutsu actions, not the like...
Yeah, because
bread and butter stuff, because that's the cool, unique thing. So I guess that's the thing to double down on.
Yeah. So one of the things that people were always talking about before was, where's the fourth mudra? But I don't want a fourth Midra. I don't know if anyone really wants a fourth Midra unless they're completely mental, because that would just completely shift up the entire gameplay flow of it. It would work, of course, but it would shift it up entirely. So it's not there. So that's
okay. Neat. Seems like it's stuff to be excited about.
Yep, certainly is.
So if you do Reaper, I'm just gonna nip off to the bathroom. Do you want me to get anything from the fridge?
No, I've got my sort of I've got my Pepsi here that's getting a bit lukewarm. Yeah, so I can't really go into Reaper all that much, because that would take us ages, to be honest. But I go through Reaper. I talk about it. It's just cool.
Just before he was on the screen, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, like Reaper just looks amazing. There are so many cool things that I don't even want to go into it, but it's so cool. It is exceptionally good. They've got like I think it's 3 different kind of gauges to work with. They've got like so many stages of transformation. It's really, really nice. It's really nice, and I'm trying to figure out how to say it exactly, but somehow they've managed to make another job that fits into the already existing pretty strong melee, but with the completely unique. Like, they seem to be just build up, go fast, hit stuff quick. Like, they've got no positionals until they're fused with their void scent, and then they've got positionals, as far as I understand it, which is just man. It's really melee machinist with a fast burst window. That's what I think's really cool, where, you know, no other melee has this. Like, I mean, Ninja has a fast baseline where they have a lowered GCD because of the weapon skill speed. Samurai's a little bit slower, a little bit faster, but Ninja's got like the big speed with Huton buff. And now Reaper's like, okay, now you've got this codified window of go fast, hit your buttons, do some serious stuff, and it looks so fun. It looks really fun. I mean, Sage looks fun as well, but it's nuts. And then if I move on a little bit to the ranged physical DPS, Dancer gets a little bit simplified, but it's got Flourish and Cascade, which is one of the procs shared across single target and AoE, which is very, very nice. Oh, Salmon into the same speed. That's right. Anyway, yeah, the Flourish and Cascade shared across single target and AoE, but also some new actions. And then one of the things about Esprit was that the resource that Dancers use was that it was kind of inconsistently built. It was randomly built. And now they've went, okay, here you go. It's just going to build in a way that you can understand, in a way that you can, you know, figure out, that you can play around, as opposed to kind of being random. And then also like those new actions that are coming off the back of their technical stab and technical finish. So again, it's that fun thing again where they're going, okay, here's some small changes. Here's what we've kind of removed. We've kind of taken away some complexity, but we've added it on later on. So that's what I think is really nice. That's kind of the philosophy they're going for overall, which is really, really pleasant. Bard is something that's interesting to talk about, because I know it's not finished. The range DPS aren't finished yet, and we'll see more once the media tour kicks off on October 13th. But Bard getting actually new party buff seems really, really smart, because it's like, one of the things that was interesting about Bard was the fact that your 3 songs they had a rotation that was optimal, but there was no real, it was kind of like an optimal meta in a sense, where it was optimal because you knew it was optimal, not because it was, you know, really cool or interesting to do. So then, now, when you've sung all 3 songs, you can do a big party buff. So, you know, I imagine they'll call it something like an encore, but you've had your party buffs, and now go. Including moving the Wanderer's Minuet and the Battle Voice to 120 seconds, so Bard will line up a little bit nicer, as well as the 45-second songs, because it used to be 30 seconds, and I always felt that songs cycled a little bit fast, but now they're up to 45 seconds. So it'll fit a little bit longer, a little bit more into that window. And then a couple actions get follow-ups, like Apex Arrow, which is weird because basically you build a gauge, you build your song gauge. When it's high, use Apex Arrow, which is big finishing move. And they went, one finishing move is not enough. You're allowed 2 finishing moves. So you apex arrow, and then you just hit another button afterwards for an even bigger finishing move, which is really interesting. And then obviously the machinist. I don't know much about what's changed in machinist. It's just getting new actions.
Gotcha.
Just getting new actions. And then black mage, Enochian simplified. So it's just instead of something they have to physically do, it's something that that will automatically occur. So they just don't have a button press to work into the rotation, but the effect will still be there, which I've seen people say is a very, very nice, a very, very nice quality of life upgrade. It's just, especially when it comes to casters trying to weave stuff in, sometimes it can be a bit awkward, but so it's just a nice change. And also some additional AoE procs, which is very, very nice considering I've not played Black Mage up at 80, but I've looked at it and it seems like it's definitely suffered versus versus the rest of how its rotation seems to go. So it's nice to see that happening. Then Red Mage, it's a new magic barrier to protect its allies. I was about to say protect its colleagues. I think that says something about me. But it gets a magic barrier to protect its allies. It gets Verflare, Verholy, and Scorch are AoE. So you don't have to. So your big finishers just also have AoE components.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things that's really, really nice is they've changed the idea of when they get to burst, basically. So one of the things that always annoyed me as well, Red Mage needed to build up to 80 of both manas to get a full melee combo, which meant that at the start of the fight you were going for ages before, like, in some trials and stuff, like especially if if you're playing Red Mage and you go into like a low effort or something, you don't get to finish. You just build up your cage and the fight's over by the time you get
proper Cape Westwood experience. Awful.
Yeah,
ruined.
That's basically it. So it's going to be a little bit different, and they have a new finisher, but you just go and in the fight press I can't remember the name of it. Manification. Press Manification and just whack the shit out of them. So you get to use your melee combo instead of having to stand at range forever.
It's one that's high on my list.
Oh, I still think it's one of the best jobs.
Right? Yeah. Tom was Red Mage, and it just looked cool as hell. Whenever turns out, that Discord streaming, I initially was like, Discord, why would I want that? No, Discord streaming is great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it to pieces. And then the biggest overhaul of all of the jobs is Summoner, where you'll see on screen, funny meme, more dots, okay, stop dots. Obviously, World of Warcraft players will enjoy that, but very much just Summoner. They were so mad for so long that clearly Square Enix had no idea really what to do with the job, and now they're going, fuck it. It's your time. It's your time. You're the one that gets a revamp. You're the one that gets a rework. And I think most are really happy about it because they get to properly feel like summoners. Obviously, they were summoners, but they were kind of more pet class. With like, do a little thing every now and again.
Yeah.
But now they've got this whole big phase. They've got different abilities depending on what primal ether they have active. And without going into many specifics, it is just straight up. They just keep cycling summons. They keep having all these new cool abilities, and because obviously, like because they're a massive revamp, then the same philosophical updates and the quality of like visuals updates and stuff that come with Reaper, come with Sage, come with Summoner whenever they have actual stuff. I mean, that's actually the best way to put it. Summoner went from an FF flavored World of Warcraft Warlock to a proper FF Summoner, because the proper FF Summoner archetype from like Tactics and from I guess it was first introduced in FF3 and from all those job games, they summon, and that is, that's an event. They don't summon and go, oh, it's a wee pet class. It's a summoner goes, here, I have just summoned a small effigy of a god to blow you up. And that's one thing they've done. They seem to have done very, very well. Although obviously there is an issue where it is now objectively better as far as most people are concerned. But it falls under the problem of some people liked it because it was really awkward, but also at really high skill ceiling because it was so awkward. So they've kind of removed that capability. Or obviously we haven't seen balance. It could come out and kick the shit out of every other job, but that's unlikely if they've actually touched it up properly, which is a little bit unfortunate. And then
Healers then.
healers. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole pile to go into with the healers because I honestly would be doing it a disjustice and injustice if I went into detail about these, but you know they've definitely helped white mages out and healer in general by going, okay, we've now codified that you're allowed to move after you cast, because previously white mage used to have cast times of the full GCD, which means you have to slide cast, which means you've got, depending on your ping, you've got between 30 and like maybe if you're playing in a decent setup, you've got like 30 to 60 milliseconds of movement. That's it. So you're just kind of slightly nudging yourself across. Whereas now you've got the codified idea for the DPS cast lower to 1.5. Ah, that makes sense. Okay, right. So it's 1.5 seconds for the DPS cast, because that was one of the problems where they couldn't weave. They couldn't weave in abilities. So now 1.5 second GCD. You can weave in off GCD abilities while you're DPSing, which means you're substantially more likely to be able to keep people alive with your off GCDs, because that's generally how decent healers actually function. It's just DPS, DPS, DPS. Oh shit, somebody's healed. But with the off GCDs, you can get that immediately. So it's really nice that they're kind of moving that way. And then they've obviously, like we talked before, they've moved into the distinction of pure healer and barrier healer, which is just codifying how gameplay works and giving them their own unique flavor, which is just nice. And then scholars. Yep. What they got was everybody run fast.
Which is good, but maybe not precisely what is going to make them excited when they look at what other people get.
Yeah, so that's one of the big things. And then Sage, I don't want to go into much detail there, but they're the disc priest now. They can heal by dealing damage, which is definitely unique. It's definitely unique to Final Fantasy so far, but certainly cool, I think, as a unique flavor, as long as they don't end up too insane. But I think as far as I've seen, everyone's really happy. Everyone's generally happy with Sage.
It seems like bar some... overall, it seems like bar a few specifics. There is... bar a few specifics where it's like... not less that something's been ruined, maybe more that people preferred an older thing, or there hasn't been enough. It does seem generally positive, so yeah, that's what we want to see. Yeah, and
I just love that so many of the job actions things, so many things in the job actions trailer were picked up because people were like, okay, we will analyze this frame by frame to see what's happening. We will pay attention to see it, and then, you know, we will learn more detail when they start to tell us things once the media tour kicks off. But right now it is just everyone going, shit, what's going on? Shit, what happened, mine? I did watch the Bard one back a couple times, the Ninja one back a couple times, going, can I see anything really interesting here? Can I see anything can I see anything cool that's new? Like, what's the new spell effect look like? And seeing the new follow-up to Apex Hour was like, fuck, that's such a cool moment. Such a cool moment.
Ah, Nate. Yeah, so good stuff for jobs. I will admit, sort of thing, I can't exactly give you a big reaction to any of these things because it would be fucking absurd if I did, because I don't understand basically most of them. But that's going to change over time. It is going to change over time. But, you know, we all have to start somewhere. And I'm starting where I'm starting. And we'll keep on blasting. There's more things going on there. You will see soon. All right, so next thing then. Time, we're probably running on just a little tad, so I think we should do this, though.
Yes, we certainly
should do this, because this shit's all just so fascinating. And what's really handy is, even though I currently have the controls, because this is Notion, as long as you click where you are currently reading or intending to go, I will see. Look at him. Look, right, get ready, everyone. Get ready. Here he comes, and... where is he? There he is. There's Matt.
Yeah, please disregard that my icon in Notion is Mike's to class lying down.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with how I feel. Not at all.
Yeah, so, right. Doc. I think every game designer should start with Daniel Pink's book, Drive. Too many people rely on operant conditioning to motivate players, and it makes players become toxic, which developers would know if they studied the effects of psychological conditioning as a motivator. This is where we get into the fun stuff, where turns out the more you just try to crank people's I mean, basically just game how the brain works and essentially start running social experiments on people. Well, the more that you try to design from that sort of perspective, instead of just designing from a more first principles, what is the best way to deliver the cool fantasy that I'm trying to deliver to a player, then you can really get yourself in a pickle. And MMOs. It is one of the genres that I think really does fall foul of this. So let's fucking go, my man. This is going to be fun. Undermining children's intrinsic interest with extrinsic reward, a test of the over-justification hypothesis. Now, of course, you put in here the big disclaimer. This is one study taken in isolation from 1973 on a whim. So not to take from gospel, but it's a framework for us to have a fun discussion, talk about some things that we do think people feel within games. And I believe there's a book that you're going to be looking into over the next week as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for a little bit of flavor on this is literally something I picked up in just a Twitter thread. Just someone that I followed retweeted some game dev talk. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Operant conditioning. Okay. I've seen, as someone in the MMO space, I've seen how it's gone wrong. I've seen how it can go wrong. I've seen how these games go completely tits up by going, if you look at mobile games, they don't want you to play the game. They want you to be trapped in their Skinner box.
Archero. Remember fucking Archero, man?
Yep. Very sadly, I do.
Here's the thing with Archero. Well-designed game, then made evil to crank money out of it.
Yeah. So
looking at you, Archero.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been thinking deeply about in terms of specifically World of Warcraft, but this is stuff that other MMOs run into the problems with all the time. I mean, specifically, there's examples of where FF goes really wrong in this aspect. It works for them to an extent, so obviously this is a stick that you can use, but you have to use it correctly. You can't just beat everything with the same stick. But yeah, Skinner boxes are a very interesting one. So, yep.
Let's roll.
Yeah. So let's start. Where do we start? Okay. So the over justification hypothesis is the proposition that a person's intrinsic interest in an activity may be decreased by inducing him to engage in that activity as an explicit means to some extrinsic goal. Which that's in layman's terms, it means if you make someone do something by dangling the carrot, even if they like that thing, they will no longer like that thing in future quite as much, or not like so much. They won't want to do it as much because they are now expecting a carrot.
Yeah, imagine a little bit of what happens. You're let's just say you're Valve. You've got Counter-Strike. You put a battle pass in the game, and over time, you train players to upgrade the battle pass and get battle pass rewards. Well, you're going to have to keep on making better and better and better, more engaging battle passes. And then if you were to take that battle pass away, you've trained people to play for the battle pass. Whereas, of course, as we all know from Counter-Strike, an enduring game, people play Counter-Strike because it's Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
They play it for Counter-Strike.
Yep.
I'd maybe say that one way where this, an example is, say, like if you've got like a StarCraft 2, where, you're playing to make a number go up, that number's your ladder ranking, and there's like a way more direct correlation there. And I feel like that's something where you can just keep on going forever with something like that versus it being hyper extrinsic all the time. So this is fun to get into. And of course, extrinsic goals, that's the name of the game with MMOs in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, to put it very, very clearly, this can extend where it's a small thing where the overjustification can be small and not a massive problem, but hit end level on any job or any class in an MMO, hit max level, and you're like, oh, what number should I make go up next? Which usually leads to another train, but it does stop you in your tracks. Oh, well, what do I do now? I've played that for the goal. Shit, well, I'm not going to go kill a load of mobs out in the middle of nowhere because I like playing the job. You're going to want to do it for a reason, which is the problem with MMOs in general, but...
Yeah, some of this is actually a large part of why we're focusing on narrative games.
Yep.
Because I kind of want to get away from, everything being reward loops.
Yeah. Yep. So in this particular instance, this study, they went, okay, so we've got well, I'll use their words and then try to make it make more sense. But children showing intrinsic interest in a target activity during baseline observations were exposed to one of three conditions. In the expected award condition, subjects agreed to engage in the target activity to obtain an extrinsic reward. In the unexpected award, they had no knowledge but were rewarded afterwards. And in the no award condition, they didn't expect or receive a reward. So you can kind of see the video game principle there of you go in for big XP. So it says on the front of the thing you're doing, big XP, come inside, have fun.
Yes.
You go get big XP. That's the expected reward. The unexpected reward is it doesn't say. You go in because you think it looks cool, and then you get a big XP. Go, oh shit, that was nice. And the other one is just doesn't say, don't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that
thing
was
you can do.
Yep. So that was what they were doing there. And then the results, unsurprisingly, showed support for it. Where they went, what we suspect that training these kids to expect an award for an activity they were doing they liked doing and were doing for no award, training them to expect an award will reduce how much they want to do it without the carrot hanging in front of them.
Yeah.
And they were correct. And it's actually fairly substantial how different it is. We're talking about half.
Yeah, well, let's just say a kid enjoys playing with their army men.
Yep.
Or something, and if they play with their army men and make a cool little story in their head, they get a piece. They're just doing that for fun anyway.
Yeah.
But then it's like if they do that and they come up with a cool enough little story, now it's like, oh, you know what? You really played with your army men in an inventive way.
Yeah.
Here's a little piece of chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a reward, kid.
Yep.
And if you kept going and going and going and going, and the kid's like, oh yeah, I gotta play with my army man. I'll make a more big story, and I'll get a bigger piece of chocolate in the end.
Yep.
And then the adult's like, oh yeah, well, sorry kid, I can't just keep on giving you chocolate forever. So go enjoy your army man. Kid's gonna be like,
no.
Where's my chocolate?
Yep.
That they've now gotten away from the base reason why they enjoyed doing the thing, because their cognitive sort of reward loop was can't get us a bit of chocolate at the end.
Yeah. So
Not a literal study or anything, but as an example, you can think of this in terms of MMOs and gearing and rewards, etc.
Yeah,
pretty big.
Yeah, so it's fun seeing a lot of people with their own ideas behind it in chat, because I think people do feel it a lot of the times. Like there's it helps when you like the activity outside of any reward. Technically speaking, for the over justification effect, I believe it makes it worse. In that, if you don't like something and do it for a reward, there'll be no change because you didn't like doing it, so it doesn't matter. You'll happily do it for the reward. But if you like it, then if you're intrinsically going to do it, then it will change that switch in your head, where this is no longer fun activity, it's now activity for reward. Whereas not fun activity is always going to be activity for reward.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically that all of that space that is the intrinsic reason why I want to do that. It's like the extrinsic reason kind of muscles in, takes up that space, pushes the intrinsic out, and then when that extrinsic is removed, it's not like the intrinsic just pops back up, because you're used to getting the extrinsic. So it's basically a way of you can juice up engagement via extrinsic rewards, but then that's a dangerous game to play. Yep,
absolutely. I mean, there's one of the kind of spoilers, but Nezra says MSQ dailies in a nutshell. No vet would run them without the EXP gain, even if the byproduct reward is helping sprouts. Yeah, that's the thing. That's one of the what I'm going to say is a good example of it, because no one's going to find that fun. So you have to extrinsically motivate people. But to continue with the study stuff is, and this is just a bit of research, but it's all key. It's all based on the self-perception theory, which is the idea that people basically infer their own behavior and its meaning. They kind of externalize it, where they don't go, well, I want to do a thing, I'll do the thing. They kind of in retrospect go, why did I do that thing? Obviously I did that thing, and this is not an active process. A lot of the time it's just sort of just a thing that happens.
Background process.
But you go, so you go to work and you do the thing for work and you get paid. You justify it to yourself that you're doing this for pay. You're doing this for money. So then you're not going to do that thing without money. But that's the thing. It's it's literally there's some psychological disagreement on this effect, because it's a little bit under scrutiny, because you can't really scientifically prove theories that are this sort of I guess, in depth about psychology without substantial amounts of work. So it is the idea where if someone sees external contingencies controlling behavior that they understand will explain it, then they go, oh, well, that's obvious. That must be it.
Yeah.
But if they don't think that's it, if they don't see or notice the rewards, then they'll go, oh, it must be me enjoying it. And that's going forward. And it doesn't sound right. Like, it sounds completely insane because obviously you know what you like.
Oh, it's just a thing. You are less aware of what makes you tick than really what seems to make you tick. Like, in so many cases, I do think that is the case. It's so easy to be strung along in your patterns of behavior and thought by other things. I mean, I'd almost just say, look what Twitter does to people's minds.
Yeah, they
probably a whole bunch of the time think, no, this is what I'm doing, and I know I'm doing it because. And then, you know, maybe if that person 5 years in the future ended up changing their behavior and then looked back, they would have a different perception than their perception at the time. Yep,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I think whenever people, you know, they make excuses for like why they keep on playing the same game or something like that over time, and then they end up making a clean break from that game, and then they reevaluate their past behavior and they're like, oh, I maybe wasn't doing what I thought I was doing at the time. Huh, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, which is where what you know, based on their words, what if external contingencies are not perceived, or if they're unclear, invisible, or insufficient, then they'll say it's their own interest, which is where this really sneaky stuff comes in, where you're going, oh, okay, well, like if this actually is probably nicely considered by the idea of them being unclear and invisible. So you know the way you play a mobile game. Or even you play any sort of modernly designed game for those purposes, and it's just bing bing wahoo the whole way.
Bing bing wahoo.
It's big lights, it's big sounds, it's happy. Yeah, this really feels good. It's all those really sort of insidious ways of going, oh, but you're never going to think back to opening an Overwatch loot box and go, oh yeah, I actually enjoyed that experience because the animation of the loot box was very nice. So few people are going to think that, but that's how they go, well, I must like it. I don't understand why I like it because it's unclear, but it's not like a conscious process. So it's really interesting to look at that and then think of that in future for how things actually kind of go this. And you're right, Albert, do need to take this with a grain of salt. It's one angle, and I hope to follow it up in future with other angles. But
although, I mean, there's a book you're
going
to be getting into soon.
Yep. So it's the idea of, like, in short, a person induced to undertake an inherently desirable activity as a means to some ulterior should cease to see the activity as an end in itself, which is exactly what I think happens to. I mean, there's another example of Trials in FF, where Trials in FF slap. They're really fun. They're just fantastic in every way. But you're going down the duty roulette, and you're like, that one's loaded with XP. That one doesn't have loads of XP. I won't do that. So you don't do the fun things. It doesn't reward you.
Yeah.
But in a world where you wanted purely fun, that would be an option. So it's like, to go through the study a little bit quick is the idea of the methodology they used. And basically they had 3 categories: reward, unexpected reward, no reward. And that reward was, just to make it clear, it was a good player award where they're being all nice to the kid and going, you did a great job. Put your name on the honor roll. Here's a reward. We're going to celebrate you in your school, etc., etc. And what they did was, it was basically drawing, right? So they found kids that were like, they didn't just find them in the street, you know. They studied like school kids and stuff. Went, okay, the ones that like drawing the most? We'll watch them and see. So those couple, you know, I think the numbers they went with were 40, 50 or so. They like drawing the most. They will gravitate to it of their own accord, which, if you can think about this in video games, obviously that's the case for gamers. They like video games, so they're going to play them.
Yeah.
So this is where I think this study is really important for, like, the gaming perspective, because it's not like, you know, you could look at all the work studies all day long, but if people don't like work, they don't like it. You know, if someone's going down the mines or working in a factory, they're not going to like it by design. That's kind of the point of gamers. It's like, yeah, we want to play this shit. We would play this all day long. But then you introduce rewards. Do they continue to play? So the results they actually had from that was this is the mean percentage of free choice time that subjects chose to play with a target activity by treatments, and this is like post. This is you've done the reward. How much of your time do you spend drawing?
Yeah.
For the for the kids that were told to draw for an award, 8.5% of the time, 8.59%. For the ones with no award, 16.73%.
Purely intrinsic.
Yep. And then the unexpected reward was actually higher at 18.09%. So the ones that they basically, in this case with kids just drawing, they proved, they supported the over justification effect, which is just the idea of, there's like 3 different psychological things, right? There's I was doing that for a reward. I'm not going to do that again.
Unless I get the thing I want.
Yeah. For most of them, not all of them. Then there was I was doing that for fun, so I'll just continue doing it for fun. It's fun. Nothing's changed. But the one that actually changed for the better, and I think this is where it would be difficult to get into games, but I've got a little idea of how they maybe tried before, and maybe it didn't work out so well, but the unexpected reward being better. So you go, I did that was fun, and also I got a reward. Sweet. That's, obviously you can see how that would be beneficial because it wasn't expected. But it's about the framing. It's about the internal framing because of the self-perception theory. The idea there is you justify your own behavior. If you like doing something, you like doing it. If there's a reward for doing it, you do it for the reward. That is basically how simple it is overall. Mm. And it just, they completely suggested here. It sounds like the World of Warcraft loot grind. Does it? Might be onto something there. Might be onto something. So, children interested, fun activity. The people who were rewarded, who knew they were getting a reward, then did it half as much. If you're not looking at that as a game developer and going, especially someone like if you're not looking at that from the World of Warcraft perspective, or from any game developer who's going, well, how do we reward players? How do we get the reward loop going? Then you really might need to rethink. You look at that and go, oh, half playtime. Shit. Mm-hmm. Shit. Bad. Whoops. Yeah. So basically my point is that gamification strategies should be extremely carefully used when players already enjoy the activity.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. Remember when you used to go into a World of Warcraft dungeon? It was fun.
Yeah.
You used to log in and go, what fun activity will I do today? Maybe I'll go for a raid. Maybe I'll go do some dungeons. Maybe I'll go on an adventure across the world. When's the last time the World of Warcraft community, as a community, did that? Mm-mm. It's clearly on the way out, largely speaking. And that's resulted in this self-fulfilling loop where the only thing they know to do is reward people better. So it is, it's effectively, it's like getting used to a medication. They're creating the video game equivalent of MRSA. If you kind of follow me a little bit, but it's that concept of we need stronger rewards to get these disassociated, disaffected players to enjoy it because they don't enjoy the activity anymore.
Yeah.
So it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And yep, this is why it all became gambling. This is why loot boxes exists, all in capital letters. That's basically it.
That's it.
That is one data point to suggest that. One study from 1973. But also, and this is something that I'm going to continue to research into, because if I skin down to the bottom there, just to show what I'm going to do next, which is drive the surprising truth of what motivates us. This is reward creep is the perfect thing to say about it. Reward creep, that's what it is. So, a 1949 experiment found that monkeys would be happy to solve physical puzzles without any extrinsic motivation. They just did it. Monkey, puzzle. Monkey's like, I'm not fucking doing anything. What's that? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, that was class. All right. New puzzle. I'll continue that. They were happy for it. Then they went, well, what if we give them some, some reasons for doing a good job? They did it. They performed significantly worse. But the thing I want to get across here with this is the person who, I can't remember his name. I think it was Hard, maybe. The person who performed the study went around the psychological community in the, I think this was around the 80s or so, and was lambasted everywhere he went because he truly believed in this idea that humans were intrinsically motivated, and well, primates, including humans, were intrinsically motivated, and he got laughed at. He got into fights with other people in the community. He got fired from a business school for daring to suggest that people maybe want to do things that are fun as opposed to work for more money. And it seems to be that is the exact same, the same thing is perpetuated. Because if it went from the 40s to the 80s in that way, you could see that currently looking at, basically anything in gamification and game design, you can see, even though people do talk the over-justification effect, you can see it's leaning one way when data out there supports that there is intrinsic stuff. So you've got this massive problem of it's just getting worse. Games are focusing on extrinsic rewards because it's the only thing that works, and it's in the psychological literature as far as they're concerned.
And then what's interesting is if it's extrinsic and predictable, that can strong arm out the intrinsic.
Yep.
But if it's extrinsic and unpredictable, then you get your big happy bing bing wahoo.
Yep.
And that is why you see things sort of turn into gambling. Now, there are some things to say, like, generally speaking, big replication crisis is a thing, especially in social scientists, or not social scientists, social science studies.
Yeah.
There are things like p-hacking, which, there's all of that going on. A large number of such studies do, like struggle with replication and stuff like that. So that's a thing. Over justification fact is decently studied. There's absolutely more, there is more reading to be done.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can feel what is going on in here. And I think it's, it's interesting as you think about the likes of Titan Forging, and then you maybe think about, say, like a Choregast.
Yeah.
Where, with Choregast, there is a world where that could be big intrinsic fun. I think it would probably have to be better.
Yeah.
In terms of some design aspects. But then if you just train people to go there for your ash and your cinders, we see exactly what happens. Everyone starts saying, oh, Choregast.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me, though, is you can have your big sort of, your big gamble, right? We see it's not the biggest, if you look at N there, it's not the biggest study in the universe.
Yeah.
But you do see unexpected reward does pretty well. I think what I'm interested in is there's clearly a threshold on unexpected award.
Yeah.
It's perhaps the sort of thing where really everything is multifactorial. So this is one cognitive thing that I think, given the way the industry is going, we can probably say there is something to this. There's a reason why it's the done thing in video games.
Yep.
Right? But there does seem to be a little bit of a breaking point when it comes to the unexpected award. And it could be the unexpected award is more of a psychological thing that works for your goopy gamer brain and, just makes you want to do the thing. But then if that ends up causing negative externalities in the rest of the game, then maybe those negatives can overcome this. And then maybe that's when you get to a situation like with Titan Forging, where as time goes on, and I remember we had this little discussion earlier, with Titan Forging, it's unexpected, it's fun, it's exciting, Oh, I was leveling up and I got a bonus proc, I got an epic bit of leveling gear, and, it's all your... But then what happens is Titan Forging becomes an expected thing for you, and then you're pissed off when you don't get it, and maybe that's why you see the likes of Titan Forging being more successful at the start, and then people getting more and more and more tired of it when Titan Forging ends up feeling like an expected thing for people because they get so used to it because, the unexpected award, if evenly applied over time, becomes no longer unexpected. It just then becomes the expected award. But if it's an expected award that then has a number of other negative externalities with the game, then perhaps that's why you see that, it's successful while it's unexpected.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, because I have a little segment here prepared on what it means for MMOs, and my theory overall is they need to balance justification with over justification, because obviously over means too much, And I think that's where the kind of key comes from here. Where it goes from, as an example, I would say the leveling roulette and main scenario roulette, those in FF14, do a good job, because that's an expected reward for an activity that isn't intrinsically valuable. So that is, basic psychology. That is getting paid for work. Like, that's getting paid to show up for a shift.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
That shift is helping sprouts,
Yeah.
filling up the queue.
Yep.
You're basically providing a work. You're basically providing your labor to ensure that sprouts can do Praetorium, and the developers clearly know that too. And you feel like you're being decently compensated for your time.
Yep.
Which is why, even though Praetorium may have a few more issues than Castrum does, people generally want to get Praetorium because it's a well-justified award for the time spent.
Yeah, and that's why the FF14 gearing system, which is, basically just a copy-paste of Justice and Valor, works, because you go to work, you get the reward you expect. There's a little bit of the sort of intrinsic, extrinsic stuff there, where you're just kind of doing a dungeon that's maybe you're doing it for the 100th time, something like that, where it just kind of works.
And if it's the 100th time, well, the intrinsic's almost certainly not going to be there anyway.
Yeah, but then obviously you brought up Titan Forging, going, it was a fun activity for reward. Well, it's supposed to be, but it's not one that arrived, because unexpected became expected. So that's just the idea of, like, World of Warcraft is clearly, obviously using this, because you extrinsically do things. But if everything is extrinsically rewarded, even the things that players like to do, if you don't identify what should have no reward, then no one will log into your game for anything except an award.
When I think about this study, and see, I don't know if this is the sort of thing that it would even pass an ethics board over time.
Yeah.
I would like to see what would happen if a study like this, which, number one, let's think about p-values and those things. Yeah. Yes. And we look at N here. Let's try to get something that's got more study participants.
Yep.
But I'd be interested in seeing what happens to all of these percentages if you try to measure them over time periods.
That'd be interesting.
What happens when the unexpected award category, does it go up like this and then go down? Because if you think it's, just saying, oh yeah, kid, good job. Good job, you go on the honor roll. How many times can the kid be unexpectedly awarded in a similar-ish manner before it then becomes expected, and then you get to see that percentage decrease over time in that particular cohort of the study?
Yep,
that's what I'd love to see. And maybe World of Warcraft ran that study, and maybe the developers saw the mounting player feedback, but also saw that their numbers, they weren't really getting as much out of the Titan Forging as they previously were. Yeah. Maybe I'm not saying they did. Maybe they saw something like that. But that's what I'd be interested in, because on the face of it, this just says gambling, 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 bing, bing, wahoo, it works.
Yep.
But we need to think about, what people ended up thinking about Titan Forging. Is that because of the negative externalities of Titan Forging as a successful unexpected award? Is it that? Or is it because Titan Forging itself inherently shifted from unexpected to expected and therefore fell foul of all of the things with the expected here? In which case you're then going to think, well, if it's going to be an expected award anyway, shall we try to go with the one that has fewer negative externalities? In which case you then start to have an argument for deterministic gearing over sort of a Titan Forging super unexpected version of gearing. If the Titan Forging is going to end up being, if you run it over time, similarly ineffective, but with externalities that don't work for people. And that said, there are some positive things for that, for players who don't have access to the big hard content to really get the big new gear. But you can see it's a complex issue. We can't just sort of say, oh, over justification effect, done.
Yeah.
This is all very complex stuff.
Yeah, almost certainly. But it's like, I feel like there is certainly a correction that needs made overall. I mean, I quite like what, who was it said it? Yeah, it was Yanni Fiona said, perhaps rewarding gameplay with more gameplay. I mean, I feel like that's that's sort of what you want to sort of do a little bit. Maybe that's still falling under the idea of reward, but it's just it's. I feel like the entire industry has looked at rewards and psychological rewards as a shortcut for intrinsic fun gameplay.
Yeah.
Because you know what's I don't remember the last time I played a video game purely for fun. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do. I remember the last time I played a video game purely for fun, and there was no other bit in my head going, "Oh, I'll do it for this reason, do it for this reason." And I shit you not, it was the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit remaster.
Whoa.
Because I have this idea in my head of every now and again. Sometimes it happens when I listen to Eurobeat. Sometimes it just happens in general. But I'll just be like, yeah, drifting down that mountain pass at full speed would be sick. And I go do it. Like, even when's the last time nothing else influenced your desire to play a game? No. Should I? I should probably play that. Yeah, I bought that. I should play that. Or, I guess I should get my dailies done. Or, I need some XP. Or I need to level.
You know, I feel that's been most of my game playing recently. Yeah. There's like playing Final Fantasy XIV at my own pace because I'm enjoying the story and stuff like that. And I mean, IRL definitely got in the way recently.
Yep.
Find out more later. That's one example. I recently hopped back into Halo 5 for really no reason, but I did anyway, and it was fun. Splitgate. I am playing Splitgate across multiple platforms. There's no cross progression. I do not give a flying fuck about any of the cosmetics.
Yeah.
The fun I've been having in Splitgate is the mastery loop of the portal system while also trying to sort of use a gun when on a gamepad.
Yep.
Because, good God, I'm used to playing it on this thing here with a mouse and keyboard, and then I end up just, playing it with a controller and making a tit of myself. A lot of RTS games.
Yep.
A lot of RTS games. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd play Age of Empires 2 just again and again and again and again versus the AI because it was intrinsic.
Yep.
A lot of the other RTS games that I play, like, I don't know, that's how it feels. I've been doing a lot more stuff in console lately. Deathloop. I just hopped into that because I was like, oh, that seems like a neat concept. Fun.
Yep.
And, like, in games, I don't give a fuck about achievements. I've never given a fuck about achievements. I purely am just... I have so little free time. I don't feel like I want to do, super big virtual work, so I'm going to focus on the unique experience. And, that's why I think, for me, there's aspects of Modern WoW where it feels like so much of their work has went into the reward loop of the game and the reward systems of the game that for me personally, what I'm really going to want is more different, unique gameplay with unique fantasy. Yeah. I don't want to just, like, let's just say there's a new mount coming out, okay? Like the Netherwing. You could say that I'd be doing the Netherwing stuff for, the extrinsic reward. And I would be for a little bit. For like a bit of the equation is that. Absolutely. But I guess it's over justification. So I'd feel the mount would be good justification for things like flying around in circles when I'm a kid getting the eggs. But another part of that was that I thought the fantasy was pretty cool. I thought me being like an orc in disguise was pretty cool. There's the bit where you get to meet Illidan, and it's like, that was all really strong. Now, for me, that is so night and day to doing a whole bunch of shit for a Paragon box.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, the content is not intrinsically fun for any of those Paragon box reps. Let's be real.
Of course it's not.
It ain't. And with that not being there, if there was an expected result, I'd feel like I'd do that, and I understand the whole unexpected result thing, but I think just because the unexpected thing is not for me unexpected, if I try to analyze my own behavior there, I know that a Paragon box is a certain percentage chance of getting a thing. It's all very, very predictable to me. So therefore I'm like, okay, the drop rate's like that. Is it? Okay, no, it's actually not worth my time to engage in that work to get that reward. Yeah. Especially because a lot of those Paragon boxes, for me, there's not a lot of like cool intrinsic like fantasy to doing that, and I'm very much an experience and fantasy driven player in games. It's why, like, for Diablo 3, I'd be a tourist. I would want to push up the higher difficulty modes because I'd find the gameplay to be fun. But you see, when it comes to just like doing the same thing again and again and again and again, gone.
Yep. Same.
Because for me, the intrinsic, it's like the intrinsic sort of goes over time as I kind of re-experience the same thing. It's like, okay, I'll go do some greater rifts for a bit. And oh, yeah, this is a cool little system, pushing and pushing and pushing. But for me, always pretty quickly, it's like, okay, well, I think I've seen what I really need to see here. And that's it for me.
Yep.
And that's just me being a very, very different player to, some of the players who are, maybe driven for different reasons than me, who will just, like our friend Dickie.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he loves that loop. He loves it.
Yep, absolutely hooks into his brain cage.
Yep, it's I think both of us are more content and experience driven players.
Totally.
I think versus anything else, and I think there's
it's actually something I like about Sony.
Yeah.
Something I like about Sony first parties. I feel very intrinsically motivated about them because that's it. They're like, hello there, Mr. Gamer. We have put all the money in the universe into making something that will be intrinsically satisfying. And if you want to be a big trophy boy and do all of those things, I think for most people, it's like they play the game as far as they are very intrinsically motivated. And maybe if there's like a few more trophies to get, a few more things to do, then it's like, oh, well, I could complete the bar by just grinding that out. You know what? Sure, it'd be cool to have the platinum.
That has been like this.
That's how the trophy, it's like not a replacement, it's like an extender.
Yeah, that is where I think some trophy design's really, really good. And I think that's where I've been getting a lot of platinum trophies in games recently, because it's been that, here's a little bit of extrinsic motivation to finish the bits of the game that are a bit more boring that I've already seen, but will be at least vaguely kind of there. So there's a mixture of intrinsic of I want to see what there is left to squeeze out of the game, but also the extrinsic, I'll get the big shiny and I can mark it off my head as done, finished.
Exactly. Like, for example, like in our game, again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but obviously it's a game that's going to be in Steam. We are going to implement achievements, yes. And it's a narrative game, which means, you'll get to the ending via a different path. You will get a different ending based on what you do. In my head, any sort of achievement or trophy thing, that would be used to sort of help inform the player.
Yeah.
You could make a different choice there, and it would definitely have a different, a different impact on the story, or, what character lives or what character dies. So we'd be more using that as a way to signpost more intrinsic value that you can access beyond your first playthrough.
Yep.
Now, for some people, they, would very much just be like, well, I'm going to get all the achievements because I really like achievements and Steam trading cards and all of that. But that's at least how I feel about that kind of thing. Yeah, word of the day, intrinsic. Yeah, word of the day last time was pragmatic. Now it's intrinsic for today.
Yeah. At least
we'll choose a word for every stream.
Yeah, well, you know what? At least we've got some pretty decent vocabulary going on. Absolutely. But it was funny that you said earlier about a split gate and it being the mastery loop, because I do realize we probably want to get going at some point soon or finish up stream a little bit. So I think I can wrap this up.
It's probably our final one here.
Yeah, I can wrap this up fairly nicely by bringing us back to what might be up next week if I have the time to read it, and among everything else we're trying to do, which is Drive, the surprising truth about what motivates us. Because you were saying the mastery loop. This book, it's a little bit old, 2009. Oh my god, old. Anyway, yes, a little bit old, 2009, and the argument it has a lot of references to studies, which I'll obviously follow up on and stuff. But the idea is that aspects of the largely intrinsic human motivation can be divided into autonomy, mastery, and purpose. As in, you're going to do it yourself, you want to get better at it, and there's a reason to do it that's larger than just any singular reward.
Oh, that's why I do this job in games and everything. Yeah, no, that's why I do things. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I do things. Why I kind of don't give a fuck about money.
Mm-hmm.
I just see money as a resource to be deployed to make cool shit, because, I mean, frankly, you don't take it with you, do you?
Yep.
When you pop your clogs, that's it. Doesn't matter how much is in the account. I mean, it does to your family, and it would be nice if you could leave something behind that's good. But, for all those people who are like, I must have the big Ferrari.
Big money.
And, all of that, it's like, well, don't over-justify your entire meaning for, all of that. Yep. You'll be a bit miserable.
Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to say with this segment is... First of all, kind of a look at MMO design. But also, I think there's a world where people can engage substantially with themselves and with games a little bit healthier by kind of understanding concepts. Show the results of this study are less important than the idea of the self-perception theory, which is examine why you're doing something, think about it deeply. Because God only knows the people who want you to do things are thinking about it as well. And maybe that's why we are where we are. So.
We should all deeply interrogate why we actually do things and think. You know, it's like one way I like to think about it is think about your cognitive diet.
Yeah.
All the things that you put into your body as like your literal food diet. Those things can change. You know, change bits of you. I mean, there's all of those things linked between like the gut microbiome and like all that vagus nerve shit, and there's a lot more research to be done there, but it all seems to be quite interesting. But in a way, you've got a cognitive diet, you know? You'll think about even your social diet, all the people you hang around with, you'll become a little bit more like them. Your cognitive diet, you know, what are all the things you're pumping in to yourself? And if you're, you know, if you wake up in the morning and read all of the breaking news, get really stressed, kind of like spend all your time in twitter.com and all of those things. And I'm not doing this as a break for, you know, as a hit at people, because it does get everybody. And all of these companies are deploying, you know, vast armies of psychology people and data scientists to work out how to actually get your attention, you know? Like even the whole thing of the infinite scrolling and the, you know, pull down to refresh, like literally mimicking a slot machine, because that shit actually is super well studied and works. That's all vying for your attention.
Yep.
Right? Trying to in the same way there's all this shit that just makes food basically friggin' addictive. I mean, you start the thing at Pringles, you ain't stopping. It's like that happens with all of the things that sort of demand your cognitive appetite. And you only have so much cognitive appetite. You know, it's also strong arms you in, and then it's just going to sort of change how you think about things, you know, what you do. And, so I think a lot of it's just about, again, it always comes back to the damn Pandaren saying slow down, doesn't it?
Yep. There's a reason Mists of Pandaria was the best expansion World of Warcraft ever had. And that's some part of it, maybe.
That's it.
Some part of it, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's banana stand. I just ate a whole can of sour cream and onion Pringles. Yeah, I mean, fucking hell, if I, back in the day when because it's a rule, I don't buy them anymore. I used to get that Tato Craft. Oh man, the Tato Craft salt and vinegar. You eat a whole bag. Would you even care that your tongue literally feels like it has been physically damaged by the end, near the end of that bag? You just keep on going.
Yep.
And then it's like, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's like all that shit you do it, then you instantly regret it, and then the fucking next day you go to the shop and repeat the same mistake again. You're like, what?
Yep.
What's going on? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, it's because the people designing products have looked at all of these studies and understand why you're doing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
understand what you're doing to fight back, and then maybe you'll sit down with the video game and go, damn, that was fun, as opposed to whatever you feel whenever you
Bing, bing, wahoo!
yeah, as opposed to whatever you feel whenever you log out of a what do you call it? Whenever you log out of an MMO and go, was that it? Not to say there's anything wrong with them, just that there is a balance to be struck between those rewards, and there's a part where that can fit beautifully into things. But yeah,
and it's just worth thinking about for all designers of games, and I think especially for designers of MMOs, because it's really easy to fall into that trap, and it's easy to fall into that trap like accidentally without knowing. So this is not a thing of like casting blame at them. It's a thing of, oh shit, this is a really hard problem to solve. And maybe you think about some future MMOs like Palia and stuff like that, where maybe there's like a little bit more player driven, and maybe there's something to be said for an MMO that is, it's more targeted in what it wants to do, which means it will have a great amount of intrinsic value to a small amount of people, and it'll just continue forever as a niche hit. And I think about like even OSRS, does it actually have an aspect of that? EVE Online, does it have an aspect of that? Is that purely just people going to get a bigger ship and a bigger ship and a bigger ship? Not exactly. If you actually think about how aspects of EVE work, I mean, like Bob and Toft in our guild, they seem to do that because they genuinely enjoy playing industry in that. And it's like maybe EVE is like, spreadsheets in space, total crack to the small amount of people that really appeals to. But it's like maybe they don't have to do all of those extra things because it just appeals to that base group of people. Which then sort of makes you think, like, if you always just try to grow, out and out and out by making something that's like more and more and more. I don't want to say addicting because I'm kind of, that's iffy language to use with games. You know what I mean? But you start using all those techniques. It's like, yeah, shit, do you kind of like sacrifice some intrinsic to sort of get more people strung along? And these are all just very big, complex topics to talk about, where it's not really about blaming designers. It's like, oh shit, in retrospect, what have we done? Should we have thought about this earlier? Mm-hmm. People then think of the GDC talk from the XWow dev about the over-justification effect. Mm-hmm. So it's big things everywhere. Big things everywhere.
It's a massive thing everywhere. And I think, obviously, there's a lot to take in, but, I mean, I know for a fact, I know what I'm going home to do. I'm going home to play Bayonetta, because I think that game is cool. I'm not going to log into no soul-sucking, extrinsically motivated game. Am I going to play that until I get the platinum trophy? Maybe.
Yeah, like I'm going to go home and relax tomorrow. Going to play a bunch of FF14, and it's almost entirely because I know I'm close to Heavensward, and everybody tells me that's very good, and I'm like, well, I think I'll be intrinsically motivated to play that because it seems to have an absolute banger of a story.
Certainly does.
And for me, actually, it's an interesting thing where in JRPGs, I've never really got super into them because me and turn-based combat systems, other than, of course, the greatest JRPG ever made, Lord of the Rings, The Third Age.
Yep.
It's just like, for me, even Lord of the Rings, The Third Age, like, I soldiered through it because I wanted to run around in Middle-earth. That was it. But, I think about that, like, I've generally bounced off those combat systems, so for me, it's like, I'm kind of getting into a genre. Yeah. And, it's why I'm actually actively very excited to actually get around to playing the FF7 remake, because I think it's got a combat system I'll enjoy a lot, and everybody says that's some great shit, so I'm excited.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, interesting stuff, and it's like when I think about a new thing going on in the world of Warcraft, for me, it's like the latest iteration of the Timeless Isle is not mega interesting, because I feel like I've sort of done that before. Yeah. Horrific Visions, I did find those to be intrinsically motivating, but I got frustrated by all of the things they put up to me actually getting in them and the limitations. Maybe the Trial of Ascent or the Path of Ascension is something I'll be intrinsically motivated to do because, as you said to me when you first did it, it does have a bunch of inherently fun gameplay, just obviously has issues over time because it didn't get as much love and care as it should have. So when I think about me playing World of Warcraft, it's like that's why I'm excited for a new dungeon or for a new bit of story or for a new big thing.
Content.
Because it's like, that's content, that's a thing for me to go and do on my character. Yeah. Interesting. So I guess that's maybe the way to end it.
I think so.
To think about.
I think so. In terms of a general wrap up, unless you want to quickly blast through what videos we've released this week, just to make Dakar happy.
So indeed. Right. WoW boosting exposed, the multi-million-dollar industry Blizzard profits from, because look, this is probably driving a lot of WoW token sales. It's really, really interesting. We went into this, we didn't want to just do some random op-ed hit piece.
No.
We wanted to actually understand this from the perspective of the boosters and the boosties and the communities and the people who, aren't happy with what boosting is doing in the game. Now, certainly, part 2, which is coming next week, is, it's definitely being very critical of what boosting is doing within the game, but not in a way that's really blaming boosters or boosties, because really we see that as just all symptoms of issues. So that's a big one. Then,
absolutely.
This is messed up. The 10 worst jobs in Azeroth. We just wanted to do horrible histories in World of Warcraft, and it's funny, I saw some loon on Twitter who thought that this was like a super negativity, like, hit piece video in the game. I'm like, what? We're talking about a gnomish sweatshop because it's a really fun, odd little story, an odd quirk of the game. So, look, man, 10 worst jobs in Azeroth, because there's really just funky stuff going on in the WoW lore that is a bunch of fun. And certainly Goblin Sappers and their like do not get a great time. Basically, fuck all anyone watch this video. I think one of the reasons is that, all sort of World of Warcraft interest is a bit of an all-time low. But certainly, if you've ever liked Azeroth, I would recommend giving this one a shot. John puts so much work into it, and it does kind of break our hearts whenever, John and Laced as well. Whenever, and Jared leading the script, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
It just kind of breaks our heart whenever Yeah, I don't know. Whenever the stuff we're actually passionate about and really want to make, sort of, you know, gets hit by everything else. So there's that. If you watch something after this, watch that. And chances are you probably haven't, because like 8 people watch that. I mean, not literally 8.
Yeah.
But, you know, compared to what usually sort of goes on the channel. And then for news, a little bit of talk about Diablo 2 Resurrected. Seems like it's that thing where, you know, it's like the actual game and remaster is great. Asterisks, bugs, things not fixed from beta, so maybe we need to do a follow-up there. There actually might be a little bit more to cover, but sort of our initial thoughts. Going deep into, you know, SEC. Touched on that earlier. If you want a more deeper dive, check it out there. Same goes for the Overwatch 2 Big Boss Man going. Then, yeah, Deathloop. We just found that to be interesting because there was... It's good. What's in this video has led to me enjoying Deathloop a lot more than if I think I would have played the natural way I would have played a game like that. So it's, you know, Matt, what you said definitely allowed me to be more in sync with the designers. Good. And I think get an experience that is closer to what the critics have said. Certainly for a lot of players, there's, you know, there's stuff going on there. China, we're not going to shy away from when they're doing bullshit. They're basically just trying to, you know, launch a whole thing on effeminate men, which, you know, that's... Think about what that could be the gateway to.
I'd rather not, but sure.
Yeah. Battlefield, delay happening. Diving into that, what could be going on. If you know anything about me, Battlefield, I mean, man, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 2142, even playing a little bit of Vietnam in the LAN center.
Nice.
Coleraine, sadly, LAN center is now gone. Splitgate, 100 mil. They've got 100 mil. They're going to be trying to do some real big shit with that 100 mil, so pretty interesting. And then, you know, Paradox, they had their drama. The new CEO actually got in and straight up admitted to, you know, a professional whoopsie. And, you know, going into that, seeing what is up in the situation. So there's a quick summary of our content. Of course, though, for the news channel and stuff, we've got, you know, we recorded a bunch today. We've got things coming. Excited for people to get their hands on the Kenna video because we feel like that game was a bit hard done by and perhaps just revealed some issues with the game review process. I mean, you compare an 1,100 word, you know, review with, say, an in-depth one from what somebody could be doing in YouTube, and it's like, man, the difference is pretty big. Yep. And also, I actually just think that YouTube is fundamentally a better medium for a game review because
of course it is.
You can see the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some stuff there.
Surprisingly enough, that might be an important part of it.
May just be. So that is it. That is it for us today. We're very busy. Soon I'll tell you what Thomas is doing on Tuesday whenever I'm able to, because it's really fucking cool. I never saw this coming, and it's cool and exciting. And I mean, certainly for him as, you know, maybe for him as a playwright and play director before doing all of this. I think it's probably a pretty darn cool moment. Yeah, a moment for him and
absolutely
and people. And yeah, man, there's also things happening with us in the content space, non-game, and then in the game space. Basically, it's all happening at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a mighty period of time coming up.
Yeah, and goddamn, if we are going to launch some things with the studio tour, there's a little bit of sprucing up I really want to do. That's there's a lot to do. So okay.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a little nicer in here than it was a while ago.
Matt did a bang up job here. It was like I went for an hour and a half, I came back, and boom, the place is so much more I mean, less of a literal death trap. Because I think if you've ever worked in a studio, like around enough cameras and lighting gear, no matter what, they always descend into a death trap within like zero time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yep, just before we go, we have one question that I think you would like to answer.
Oh, let's go.
From Simon M. Best SG1 episode?
Oh.
Am I putting you on the spot here a little bit?
I think I know. No, I do know what my answer is.
Yeah.
Heroes. Thingy Heroes. It's the two-parter. It's the two-parter that like got them the Emmy, I think. There is a character death, and it is like really well handled. The one where the Vietnam investigative reporter is like there as one of the characters. Oh my god, I cannot believe this is happening. Yeah, I just think that was an incredible SG1 episode.
Grand.
Big incredible. If I was to pick one, but you know there are lots of fun ones, and then we could talk about Wormhole Extreme, where There'll be some Wormhole Extreme is basically where SG1 like basically documents leak, and it leaks to a TV studio, who then basically makes a fake in-universe SG1 knockoff, where all the characters are like, that's my job. How did this leak? What is going on?
Oh, that's class.
Man, yeah,
That's great. Yep.
miss those characters.
Well, apparently you got the wrong answer because everyone says time loop.
Well, okay, no, time loop's like maybe number 2 for me, or maybe number 1. Basically,
There you go.
ship, big shipping episode.
Yep.
SG1 is one of those things where there. I mean, no, everybody knows that there's a ship between Carter and O'Neill.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone knows this thing, but it's the sort of thing where the show. There's a bit where they just kind of suspend the ship, and not suspend it, but they don't really cover as much in episodes, and that's kind of because I think a bit of Richard Dean Anderson, like, I mean, just for the sake of his personal life, and like wanting to spend more time with his daughter, stepped away from the show a little bit more. But both of the actors have said that they would like to think that once the limitations of professionalism within the military were no longer applying to them, that perhaps those two characters would engage in some relationship.
Excellent.
Which for the SG1 fans, I think almost all of them would be in approval of that.
Excellent. Well, I think that is where to end it. Thank you very much for tuning in today.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, love a good time loop episode.
And
oh yes, it was on Deathloop. I'm playing that as well.
yep.
Time loop game.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a time loop game design. We just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
We've done a prototype. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So
Yes. Anyway, right. Okay. Cool. Goodbye. Have a great day. And yeah, I mean, somehow if you can tolerate seeing more of us, there is in fact more content out there. If not, then I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, have a good weekend, everyone, and we'll see.